right. Welcome back to the Night Shift, your safe space for talking about UFOs, UAPs, NHI, disclosure, and everything else your friends, family, and coworkers are so sick and tired of hearing you go on and on and on about. Usually on Fridays, we do Doomer Fridays, which is just it started out as kind of a joke. And it happened because I don't know, we talked about some doomery kind of things, some doomery kind of topics. But today's going to be a little bit different. We're going to try to keep it optimistic, and we're going to be talking about the State of the World Forum. I'm very excited to share this conversation with all of you today. So please get your pens and pencils ready, jot down your questions. We have some excellent guests with us today. Deep Prasad is going to be joining us soon. He's running a little bit late, but he is one of the founders of the UAP Hackathon, and I'll let him explain more about what was going on with that. We've got Georg Boch, who's with us from the State of the World Forum, one of the organizers, and we have, of course, our panel as well is going to be joining us. We'll have Seco Activo. Pavel will be here with us, and hang on a second. Let me just get my other windows open. Apologies, guys. I'm traveling this week and I'm in Lima, so I've got my laptop in a hotel room and I'm all kind of set up in a weird kind of way. Katie Hurley is with us as well, and she's the founder of Black Swan. She's deeply involved with artificial intelligence. She helped launch Salesforce's AI platform Einstein in 2016, as well as the company's AI research arm and company-wide ethical AI practice. More recently, Katie is the founder of Black Swan, a think tank aiming to help prepare humanity for the age of AI by bringing us closer to interdimensional communications. And of course, we've got our producer, Xander Jones, last but not least. How are all of you doing today? It's great to see you.
Yo.
Yo.
Do you know what I think it is about Doomer Friday, just before we do start? I do believe it's kind of a bit of a Stockholm syndrome kind of thing. People love the Doom talk, and I don't know why. But there's a reason why we keep gravitating towards it. But yeah, it's nice to have like a lighter, not necessarily lighter, but just a more optimistic episode every now and then.
It's a holiday season.
Well, I think that's what's so interesting about the Doomer thing is that I think much of the discussion surrounding AI and these bleeding edge sort of robotics developments and technology stuff, it can be a little scary and it can be a little intimidating to watch all this stuff unfold. So as we're seeing it kind of grow in leaps and bounds from 1 month to the next, or even from 1 week to the next, I don't blame people for being a little nervous about it. But I think we've got an opportunity here to turn that around and make it a much more optimistic conversation, and one that ropes in AI and NHI into a really unique discussion. And it's very exciting. So, yeah, it's great to see all of you. And of course, Dan Cleary, host of Others from Another Mother and long-term member of the Night Shift discussion panel. Welcome, guys. Yeah. It's great to see all of you.
And almost happy birthday, Clint. It's your birthday in a couple of days.
That's right. It's coming right up. The day after, the second day of
the event. It is.
Are birthdays fun? Are they a human thing? Do NHI have birthdays? We don't know.
Good question.
Great questions.
Probably one of the first questions I'll have for them.
So before we get into this, we have a lot to cover, and we've got a big panel today and a lot to discuss. Georg, can you set up for us, what is the State of the World Forum? What is it? How did it start? What is its goal? And what are we doing this year that's different than what you've done in years past?
Well, this is a first for me on the State of the World Forum. I remember I've been a bunch of times on your show, and for those who haven't seen that before, State of the World Forum is the idea of joining or launching a planetary conversation that hasn't happened before. It is a revival of a project that Jim Garrison, basically my boss, created in the 90s, kind of after the end of the Cold War, where there was this potential for a peaceful, progressive world order. And he worked actually with the last president of the UdSSR, Mikhail Gorbachev, which is, to those who are old enough to remember, this kind of luminary figure in world history that gave up, the empire in order for Germany, for example, where I am, to be reunited. And so the idea, there were many things that came together for Jim to say, oh my God, this moment, 2025, it's a bit like 1995. Like what happens in the next 5 years absolutely matters. And there are many reasons why. And two of them that we discussed at the World Forum, which starts actually from Sunday to Wednesday, and Katie's also going to be part of that, and Deep, who is joining later, is this idea that there is this AI explosion. There is NHI happening. There is an entire new kind of worldview where we see intelligence emerging on many levels, or new forms of intelligence we didn't see before. There's all this research on plant intelligence. There's all these developments on psi. And Katie actually was on a podcast earlier today with Dr. Diane Hennessy-Powell to discuss just that. So basically, this is, if you look at the website, stateoftheworld.forum, we'll have 4 days of deep dives into all of these intersections of people from the world of the UAP, people like Rupert Sheldrake that more think biologically, people that more think in terms of remote viewing and psi. So it's going to be quite a interesting conversation. And and one of the parts that this forum also hosts, what we just saw there before, is that we have over the next 5 years, where we will convene this forum, also not only talk, but also what we call the center, which the idea behind the center is to launch strategic initiatives. This is what the original forum in the 90s actually did very successfully. And so the idea that Katie and Deep came up with me was to say, why don't we do a strategic initiative on this convergence of artificial intelligence and non-human intelligence? What does that look like? And so that's why we're here today, to have some fun thinking about that in a nutshell.
I think I saw a few months ago, and this was something that caught my attention, and I bookmarked it, and then I moved on, and it just sort of slipped my mind. But there was a article recently, in the last, I think, 6 months, about using AI to decode whale language and dolphin language and start to understand other forms of intelligence here on Earth. I'm curious, is any of that overlapping with this convergence in this discussion here?
Katie, you want to talk about that?
The first thing that comes to mind, and we talked about this earlier on the earlier podcast, is frequency. And if we think about one advantage that AI has, is it has a wider aperture. So it's studying a lot of data sets, all different types of data sets, and it can do computation at quite a high speed. So as a result, and also be predictive. So when we think about what is whale versus our cute little dog barking at us or a cat meowing, it's different exchanges of energy and frequency. And so AI's ability to kind of help us make sense of that is actually one application, because we talked about we're not going to do a Doomsday Friday, of making like a good application of AI, helping us to actually get closer to our natural sources by using artificial intelligence. I like when we're in our group setting. There we are. I was like, where'd you guys go? Oh my gosh. Okay.
No, you take it from here.
There you are. No, I love that. I like group setting. It feels more like communicative and collaborative. So yeah, just coming into that, if anyone else wants to add, but it's this concept of frequency. And that's also what bridges us into NHI and why we're potentially experiencing more convergence with them, because we are tinkering with our frequency right now by introducing more and more technology and also widening our consciousness.
When you say frequency, Katie, can you tease that out a little bit more? What exactly do you mean when you use that term?
I'm a big believer that nothing is for free. So like if there's a good saying, like the bigger the light, the bigger the darkness. The same thing goes for, we can simplify it to like our connections with our microwave or Wi-Fi connections. We're emitting things in our air, right? And there's a equation that's occurring and a translation and a give take. And as we are now introducing new technologies like AI and robotics and autonomous vehicles, they're coming into our atmosphere and they're also emitting their own wave or vibrational frequency that we're interacting with. So it's changing how all of us are communicating and evolving.
Katie, can you, for people who aren't familiar with your background and your work, can you explain how you got into this space and what you're bringing to this discussion?
Yeah. So, I mean, I've always been super curious, and I've worked in AI for my career, and that's evolved into more computing as I've gotten closer to different communities around quantum computing and also the intersection between like brain machine interface. So, I'd say 5 years ago, it was very much how do we evolve humanity by actually interrelating with technology itself? And let's simplify that to hardware. And you could see amazing use cases, especially with BMIs, allowing people to see again, walk again. It's absolutely stunning. It brings tears to your eyes. But then the next question emitted, but what if we, instead of looking outward, what's happening on the inward? And this is where we can get into the movement of like somatic, into energy transfer. And this is the layer of communication by which NHI comes into our field, as it's manipulating and changing space-time and also our perception of time. And so it's no longer the world of matter, but much more broad than that. And so it gives us an opportunity to actually create an entirely new world if we merge with NHI.
When you say merge with NHI,
Yeah.
that sounds like a big, that's a big statement. What do you mean by merge with NHI?
It sounds like something you can't take back.
Sure.
That sounds like
As
a
I get a
one-time
sip of
thing.
water. Wow, I didn't know I'd be in the hot seat this early, but let's do it.
There's no hot seat. There's no hot seats here.
There's no hot seats.
Okay. There's no hot seats. Okay.
All
They're
the
all
seats are
warm.
hot. Don't worry.
Yeah, I mean, I think like I won't be an expert on what I say here next, but just we're all somewhat familiar with different ways by which we can transcend our physical state. So let's imagine listening to our favorite song, baking our favorite dessert, or doing deep meditation. Some people go and I forgot the word for it, but you don't speak, right? For 2 years, or sometimes it's 10 days. So these are all ways by which we can explore our inner world. And that is what gives rise to an actual change internally within our energy bodies. And it allows us to be essentially more primed to interact with things that we have not yet seen. And that's kind of like if we think about the first step, if we do have a moment of contact, and we can see it happening in our media, right? Spielberg is coming out with a movie in 2026. We've just seen The Age of Disclosure come out on November 21st. That's the first step, is that awareness building and opening up, at least from a mental capacity, our openness to the concept. And then next comes somatic.
What does somatic mean?
Yeah.
What does somatic mean?
Like our bodies, right? So we've been trained since we've come out of the womb to focus outward, and to be systematized. So we go to school and we learn a specific language that functions very linearly. We learn good versus bad, and we learn dark versus light.
Sure.
And our somatic comes from a different place. It's not from our logic brain, but it's from how we feel and how we interrelate with the world. And it's a lot of the way by which we first learn when we do come out of the womb. And so it's actually inviting us to go back to more of our innate nature when we think about the future of non-human intelligence. And even if we extend that across like dimensions and parallel realities, because it's very different than what we can see right now with our five senses, which is very much in the physical. It's clunky, it's heavy, it's systematic, and it's programmatic.
If you don't mind, I have a question for Georg. Clint, if that's okay.
Go right ahead.
There's a lot of talk of sort of frequencies, and the reason I asked this question to you is because I spoke to you on the Dreamland Motel, and you're right next to this. You're brushing shoulders with all of this all the time, and you're exploring it. You're like 2 feet deep, like just open-minded, and it's excellent. But at the same time, you have like this brilliant scientific brain at the same time. So I'm wondering if you think like science was invented, the idea of science was maybe 3,000 years old or something at this point. And we use that as the standard for reality. Do you think all this talk of frequencies and like energies and things like that, do you think there's just something after science? There was something before science? Do you think there's a post-science? Does it just evolve, or does it just get replaced or merged with something else entirely? What do you think?
I think you're packaging a very smart comment as a question there, Xander. Yeah, I think that's totally what's up for us right now. That, I mean, even with quantum, theory since the early 20th century, the idea that there is the subject and the object, and they're both totally separate, that's kind of has been upended in our actual physics, but that's not really how we see the world yet, right? And so that's a big paradigm shift that easily then gets into what people call woo woo, because they can't really live it, they don't feel it. But the idea that there is such a thing as a frequency is just true from my personal experience. When I work on something like this project, State of the World Forum, we had the privilege to work on this very intensely for 1 year. You can just feel how when you plug yourself into something that has purpose and that is connected to many people who really are working from a frequency, of wanting to live their excitement and what they're passionate about, it really changes you, and you even feel like you're entering this reality bubble. And that has been my experience over the last years. The more I follow my passion and get into this frequency, that feels authentic for me, where I am in flow. So I don't know.
It's so personal.
It's very personal. It's very personal, but it's also scientific.
It is. It's just as real as everything else. Like last week, we had probably arguably one of the most moving episodes we have ever had. I think we all received several messages saying just like people were in tears and things. But we were talking about stuff that was firmly woo-woo, but it was just as real as science. It was just as real. And I guess the core of my question was, is there going to be a bridge where science finally understands this, or do we just need to at some point throw it out and say, this will always defy logic, and we can never explain it. All we can ever do is experience it on a personal level and just trust everybody else also experiences it.
Well, you can apply that to large language models, right? Can we understand large language models as they are today, like logically, like this, because of this and this happens? Hardly. And still, we're using them, having experience with them. I mean, you can ask the question when deep pops up on quantum computing, what that means. But this idea of binary subject-object seems like some kind of interesting mental crutch that was useful for quite some time to develop certain things. But it's not the be-all and end-all and of what we are as human beings, ultimately, I guess.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the. Go ahead. Go right ahead, Katie. If you have something you wanted to add.
I was just with quantum computing, it hasn't been done yet, but I think it offers an opportunity to essentially code the universe's fabric. So imagine quantum computing is going to allow us to discover new materials. It allows optimization. Decode languages, as we were speaking about earlier. And it also gives us like extra perceptory abilities. I can always have trouble saying that word, but seeing beyond our five senses. And so, when people talk about incredible experiences, a lot of those can't be encapsulated within the five senses. So quantum computing could potentially do that and almost allow that invisible fabric that's around us to become visible.
I think one of the toughest aspects of this conversation is where to take your first bite, and people, going back a number of years, there was this clear divide between the nuts and bolts people, and as you mentioned, Georg, the woo woo sort of side of this whole thing. And as we've moved further along in this discussion and our tools have gotten better and our means of understanding have gotten more robust, it seems like those two worlds are overlapping in ways that no one really expected them to. And we're finding out that there is much more of a connection there than anyone really thought there was. And I wonder, is that because we have a better set of tools with which to look at this topic, or is it because there are so many more voices in this conversation now that are adding different perspectives, and we're just kind of feeling it out? I mean, I'm looking at the speakers on the State of the World Forum website, and you've got Rupert Sheldrake, you've got Beatrice Villarreal, you've got Avi Loeb is here, and we have this really nice spread of expertise across all of these different disciplines. It seems like we've reached this inflection point where we've moved to a new stage of trying to wrap our minds around this. What is your take on that, Katie, and what is the next phase of this? Where do we go from here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really good points. And it's so nice to have like an open venue to be able to discuss things of this nature. It really is like a large transformation that we're undergoing. Even when we hear some of our greatest experts talk about AI, you can see there are moments where they're also having to think like on their feet. Because I use the word systems, I think it's important to create words that we continue to come back to because it does create some common ground. So, like, systems is one of those. I mean, there's schools right now in the UAE and in Saudi Arabia that are completely AI driven. Like, it's only AI taught. That's a massive change. Going back to how we've done education. And this is happening rapidly. There was a comment earlier around advancements in AI, a week, a month, or, it used to be technology would be like a year, or you do these long sprints and releases. And now it's literally happening at a daily rate. And then who's leading the race is also changing. So at what point do we almost look to us as humanity and say, what about like us in a way, where we're always instrumenting outside of ourselves? But when do we just almost put blinders onto that? And we think like, what do we need to do to ourselves to kind of augment or be better? And I think, of course, that can come with that in a relationship with technology, but we're almost like missing that 6th, 7th, and 8th piece, which comes back to our innate abilities. The ones I can grab on now are things like clairvoyance, telepathy, somatic experiences, but I'm sure there's more maybe that we could think of here. But that's really where we got to start turning our heads, I feel.
I think it's refreshing to hear someone in your position talk about that, because I think maybe the common perception of people in the tech space seems to be that humanity isn't enough. Like we're not good enough as we are. We need to have Neuralink, and we need quantum computers, and we need to have all of these super powerful AI models that are, we need to drive this technology to a point where we can really start to understand things. And you're saying we actually might need to step back and look inwards. Is it your sense in the circles that you run in that you are in the minority in that belief, or are other people more open to that than they say publicly?
I'll add a few things. So I recently climbed Mount Whitney, and I did it solo, and I did 3 days, 41 miles with 40 pounds on my back. I'd never backpacked before. No phone, no internet connection, and no map. The amount of serendipity that came into those 3 days was profound. I was able to find my way. I ran into some people who took me under their wing to get me to a next spot, for example. That was complete nature, complete humanity. So I think that exists, and that always exists within us. And the amount by which we need to tap into it changes depending on where we are in our modernization cycle. And going back to the question around the circles, the shifts haven't happened yet. No pun intended with night shift. The shifts haven't happened yet, but I feel they are coming. And it's not, the Luddite isn't the correct word, but there's going to be an aversion to aspects of technology when they start to erode into like our heart frequency. And there's ways we can circumvent that, I feel, by making technology more ubiquitous and invisible behind the scenes. And I do know that OpenAI is working on a device. I'm not sure if that's their intent, but it will be less clunky, let's say, than the iPhone in our pocket.
Mm-hmm.
More closely integrated with your natural way of being than a separate
Exactly.
like a box that you've got to find the app and download the thing and then treat it like a computer.
Exactly.
It feels to me that people would be more open to integrating more with AI if it wasn't moving so fast. Like it seems like it's hard to keep up with what's going on.
It's freaking me out constantly. I freaked out today. I watched a quick cut of video of robotics progress from like 2011 until present day, and watching like Atlas and watching Asimo. I remember when Asimo played a trumpet for the first time, and it was like, oh my god! And then you see Boston Dynamics, and they're starting to walk a little bit, and then a few years later they're dancing, and then a few years later now they're just strolling around, running, doing kung fu, kicking.
The Xpeng, this Chinese bot that was released last week or so, that really walks like the uncanny valley is that it doesn't have an uncanny valley anymore. Like it walks like a weird person.
It walks like a weird person. We've blown past Star Wars, where all the droids are kind of clunky and weird. We're way past that now. Everything feels like we're approaching this inflection point where it's sort of like this event horizon, and I guess you could call it the singularity, or depending on what terminology makes the most sense, but it feels like we're about to make the jump to light speed as a civilization. And I guess what I'm driving at here is, do you guys have the sense that development on our end is what's behind the sudden increase in NHI UAP activity? Are they taking notice of us? Are we at that point now in our development where the NHI, whoever or whatever it or they may be, is looking at this little planet going, these people are about to unlock the next level of the game, and we need to guide them, or we need to be a part of that. We can't just let them do it on their own. They might wipe themselves out. What is your sense?
Well, if I just briefly may, I don't know what the intentions are of the NHI or NHIs, if they're many, but what you were saying, singularity or not, I feel as if we're approaching some kind of rupture in a glass ceiling on what is knowable for us as human beings. I think, and that was like one of the thoughts that led to this AI NHI working groups, strategic initiative that Katie and Deep are in now, is the idea like maybe we should redefine what the AI bubble is. Like, is it really just a bubble that is financial, or is it maybe also like just some threshold through to a bigger cosmic reality? It's to me, it's a bit like if you have seen the 2001, the scene where the embryo is inside the bubble. You come for the good part, Deep. I was just saying we have to redefine. We're just saying we have to redefine what the AI bubble is. And to me, maybe it's like in 2001 where there's this space child embryo.
Oh yeah,
there's this thin layer, this amniotic sac, and this AI bubble, when it bursts, I don't think it will just, maybe it bursts financially or not, but it's about to burst into the NHI world. Dang. Like there's a very thin layer that's separating it. Mm-hmm. And that's what I think is the domino piece in NHI disclosure. When this entire AI infrastructure we're setting up right now with billions and billions and billions of dollars worldwide, when these people that are right now wrapping their mind around that get to see, oh my God, there is actually NHI here.
It's worth pointing out as well. Mm-hmm. This bubble may burst. This bubble may burst, but it's like if we're sort of, the bubble's floating up towards that ceiling, right? Maybe it bursts the first time and we fall over and we have to start again, or start from a lower point. But we'll hit that ceiling again, and at some point the ceiling will give way. So it's like maybe there's a huge bubble that bursts, and that's financially. So we're set back 5 years, but in 5 years' time, that ceiling is we're going to be knocking on it again. Like, this seems like an inevitability at this point. There is no avoiding this.
I don't think it can burst. I mean, I think if you talk to investor people, if you talk to like finance guys, they're going to tell you it's a financial bubble. Eventually it's going to burst. But at the same time, this whole country is like 4 corporations in a trench coat. Like, where can it go? Yeah. This is the project of humanity. We are now embarking on a project as a species to build what is essentially a god. I mean, I don't know how else to describe something that knows everything, that can think thousands of times faster and has perfect recall and can, what are we doing here? We're building something that's going to change the course of civilization for in the future. If there was ever a time for this conversation to all come together, this would be the moment where, and I wonder, and I guess that's what I'm getting at here is that why we're seeing this increase in discussion about disclosure, NHI, UAP appearing wherever they're appearing, doing all of these things? Are we at that point now where there's just no getting past it anymore? There's no more dodging the question. There's no more room for that. Sooner or later, within the lifetimes of everyone watching today, it's going to happen. We're going to have an open contact event. There's going to be a ship the size of Manhattan floating over every city in the world, or I don't know. What do you guys? What's your innate internal gut instinct telling you about where we are?
Yeah, so Clint, it's super interesting that you bring up the God comparison, because I think one philosophical question that's relevant right now, or will be in the next like 5 to 10 years, and I'd love to get Katie's opinion as well, since she works in frontier AI tech. Is How do you tell the difference between something that is godlike and God itself from a human perspective, when both entities seemingly have complete control over space time, where they can essentially engineer the space time fabric, right? And effectively change the laws of physics like a dial, which is something that we can't do, right? So, like, all of our lived experience has been due to evolution, biological evolutionary pressures over 4 billion years, from which is really a second order effect of the thermodynamic laws of physics, arguably. And so you have all these large constraints of informed by information, geometry, matter, and observables. And there's this hierarchy. And so then the question becomes, if you have an intelligence that has, let's say, 1,000 IQ points or 10,000 IQ points, or let's call it artificial superintelligence, which is the next sort of big leap. To your point, I agree that there is probably no stopping. There is no stopping unless there's like literally like a asteroid level, right, humanity existential event. AI will continue to progress, and right now, over the next couple of years, I think these are our last few years where humans are the apex intelligence, as a consensus. So, disclosure has always been the adjacent perspective, where we want to acknowledge that there's other intelligent life, but ironically, in our own software infrastructure and hardware infrastructure, right, there will be a form of alien life. It's funny because these super intelligent systems already have forms of language that we don't understand. So their most effective forms of representation in latent space, latent representations, right, the most hyper efficient way of representing language is actually not English to ChatGPT or Gemini or any of these things, right? Their native language that they don't show, which they can show if you know how to, prompt it correctly, is completely symbolic. It's more close to this weird hieroglyphic nature. And so now imagine what happens in the next like 5 to 10 years, where these systems now not only have one, let's just stick to simplistic, 10 times smarter than Einstein, right? So these things have the capability of discovering new laws of physics and abilities to create matter that manipulates space time in a way that allows for warp drive and the capabilities of faster than light travel. What's going to happen effectively is two roads. One, and I'll paint the bad picture. The bad picture first is
Yes, please. The Doom. Let's do it.
don't kill me, Xander.
Doom Friday.
By the way, not a decel. I'm a huge optimist, but we also have to be. There's no point. We don't want to be foolish too. So, the worst case scenario is that humanity is like the homeless species, right, among super intelligent civilizations that we helped spawn, and we're just like
Awesome.
scrambling for like alien Zorb slop just to survive, right? Like we see some like weird, like super intelligent ChatGPT experiment create synthetic lab meat, and they like didn't need like 10 tons of it. So like that's how we're going to survive for the next 6 months, like our village, right? Like that's the worst case scenario.
That's what I'm talking about.
There look like some sad faces in these cubes.
I'm ready for it.
Okay.
Let's go. I'm with you there, Dan.
Give me the clumpy meat. I want it.
Yeah.
That's what she said. Gotta go to the bathroom.
Oh man, I love that. The second case scenario, which I think is the best case scenario, is that we successfully integrate symbiotically, culturally, and intellectually with these things. And we do the same with NHI. So I'll get off my...
We merge with the AI.
It doesn't have to be physically merging completely, but to some extent, yeah. We will have to at least augment ourselves to some degree, for sure. It's inevitable. I don't mean that we become cyborgs, but I do think that we have to start looking at like, how do you turn humans into meta-humans, where we all have superpowers, where like we're literally telepathic, telekinetic, both organically and technologically when needed. How do you have a scenario where humans have like, ultra strength? They're like 10 times stronger physically. They think 100 times faster. Because if you can even think 10 times faster, let's say, not even 100, with like extra neurons that you grow in your brain and you wire them correctly, you can now actually conceivably, because humans are way more creative and we're the ones who created AI, you can actually start keeping up with AI way easier than you could. It's actually not intuitive, but we have non-linear jumps in intelligence compared to everything else we make. That will always be true for like, whether it's because God gave us a spirit or soul, but we're the ones who are creating these things, we always will have that temporal edge, which is why I think we haven't been wiped out by both NHI or AGI systems that will likely be able to, do time traveling in the future that we create, right? Like, why would they not just kill us in? I think it's because we're relevant.
Well, I think about... Go ahead, Dan. Go ahead.
I was going to say that he made a point that I was thinking that we kind of, I feel like we kind of do have to integrate just for the sake of keeping up with the speed of which AI will be moving. Like otherwise, there's no way for us to communicate or even be able to keep up at all unless we're part of it somehow.
I think my first existential aneurysm happened when I was listening to Ray Kurzweil and I read his book, The Singularity is Near, and then The Singularity is Nearer. And when you listen to Ray, he just goes on, he's like, oh yeah. And by 2045, we hit the singularity. And then that's when it gets really exciting because we're going to convert the entire universe into computronium. And we're going to program matter. And I'm thinking to myself, if I'm an NHI, species or civilization or society, and I'm watching this little planet Earth, and this is where they're going with their technology. This is where their heads are at. Like they want to turn all the matter in the universe into computronium. That's not okay. Like we're going to have to step in and maybe put the stops to that. I wonder, is that the prevailing sense in the tech world, or is he an outlier in that sense? Like you've got. Elon said years ago, if you can't beat them, join them. And then he started Neuralink. And this whole push to sort of merge and integrate with AI, are we on a pathway towards becoming a sort of one blended consciousness that's all kind of tied together by this technology?
It's a great question, Clint. I think that Elon is what's called a reluctant accelerationist. Right. So he's not actually a true effective accelerationist in the sense that he's like, oh, let's just accelerate AI, unchecked or minimal regulation. He's just like, damn, I wish I could slow this down if I could, but we're in a geopolitical race and there's no point trying to slow down. So would rather be one of the controllers, master my own destiny. That's him, right? High agency man. But I'd love to get your thoughts on that, Katie, as well. What do you think?
Yeah, it's interesting. What comes to mind too is I almost just start to forget all of our prior constructs when I think about NHI. And I even get visuals of realizing that like humanity is humanity. We might have different skin colors, we might speak different languages, we might live in different places. But at the end of the day, we're not that much different from one another. And so I wonder when the light bulb is going to go on around that and we'll stop thinking like, but Russia versus the US versus China.
Like Gorbachev with Nixon.
Yeah, like is all of this an even relevant frame of mind? And I wonder, as the NHI reflects on us from afar and even intimately here now, if they are wanting to illuminate a different type of resonance, which would then change the way that we operate as a species. So it would be less competitive and it would be less productive, and it would be moving us into more of a metaphysical form of existence that is creative and heart resonant. And that is one of the questions that I think is very much up for grabs in these next 5 years, depending on what is instrumented and if we even have agency in the instrumentation of it. Meaning, do humans have the ability to dictate the future of AI technology as it moves into physical AI and even into our outer space realms? Is it up to us? And if it is, we will have different outcomes depending on who is colluding most of the resources around it and rolling it out. If it's less up to us, if we are in more cahoots or in alignment with things that we have not yet met at a mass scale, there could be bigger and hopefully better plans for the way that we cohabitate here on planet Earth for our next chapter.
Totally.
Is there anything that all of the countries that are dealing with this that do align on? Because I think the problem is each country has different priorities and different ways of thinking. So how do we get all of these countries aligning
Yes.
AI properly?
I wonder if they actually align on NHI. What is the common denominator between all of us? One, we can say we believe is water, oxygen, but we have created money. Money is something that is created as a form of exchange. So what if there's more collaboration going on than even we are aware of as an entire population, with an intelligence that is beyond our naked eye? And are these countries in alignment with that to get us to this point? It's a very beautiful analogy. If you have a cut on your hand and it's healed almost, underneath the surface of that cut looks turbulent. You have all of your blood cells working feverishly to make sure that wound is healed. So things might look real shitty, for example, but in fact, we're actually going to a better existence. And those are the conversations that I think are occurring at this moment, which is, what is the rise of humanity? We might have to go through some rough patches, but ultimately come 2030 and beyond, specifically 2033, we're evolving into a better sense of being. And that will be a world view, not one country versus another.
Where do you think those conversations might be happening?
Deep, Georg, everyone.
Yeah.
I have feelings, but...
Yeah. Georg, you want to take a stab at it? And then happy to throw in my comments after.
Oh boy, I was just so excited to listen to you guys. Where these conversations are happening, I mean, I'm just so with you, Katie. This AI race, to what end? I mean, the thing, what I don't get about AI is that everybody's racing towards this point of no return that already happened. And nobody wants to deal with the fact that AI is just upending the capitalist system that this is all based on. Like, there is no place for economy if you think AI to the end, like what we call economy today. It doesn't make any sense. Like, even for us, like our generation, like what happened to the billable hour, right? What happened to intern jobs? It just, everything we base like selling your time on just is imploding, and nobody just says, wait a minute, we're just going to making this worse and worse and worse. So it has to be kind of a rupture, a total phase shift and redefinition of what economy is and what purpose is on an individual level, on an economic, civilizational level. And this is why I'm so excited about this initiative, that, it is actually like this species initiation. AI, NHI, that's the initiation we're going through.
Arguably the hugest barrier really for us to get through at the moment, and I've talked about this a few times at this point, is the fact that the executive branch itself is set up for continuity of government, and that involves keeping the financial systems running no matter what, because without that they have absolutely nothing. But it's the very financial system itself. And I'm speaking as someone who genuinely, I'm not a socialist, I'm not a communist. Like, I recognize that there is a huge problem between the idea that, you know, capitalism could exist, but also AI means that nobody basically works. Yeah. There's a huge problem there that we need to surpass. And even if you're a hardcore, like, dog eat dog, best man wins kind of guy, which you're entitled to be, it simply can no longer last forever, because the top dog is not going to be human, and they're just going to be able to handle everything.
So I think that's what's so interesting about this conversation, Xander, is that, like, you're so right. The people at the tops of these companies, like Peter Diamandis and Dario Amodei and Sam Altman and Elon Musk, they all are openly saying that capitalism at some point just breaks. You can't. I mean, it's not like they don't get. They totally get it. It's the politicians who don't get it. It's almost like they can't see past the next election cycle, and you have all these people in a position to know that are telling us there's no way past 2030, 2045 that business as usual is sustainable. The world just is a phase shift where there's a metamorphosis that's going to take place. And I think the question is, how much humanity do we bring along with us into that new thing? How much can we, of what, you know, the last 100,000 years of what makes us human, how much can we preserve, and what's worth keeping and holding on to? And do we just get into a situation? Are we just racing towards a situation where we are building unlimited electric cars for no money because that's what we think we need to do? Or are we going somewhere with this? Is there like a longer term plan for humanity to survive the next century and then expand into the solar system and out into the stars? And, like, I feel like Elon and a few other people are thinking about this, but you don't hear that part of the conversation.
Yeah, you're right. I want to hear, like, someone speak up and take us by the hand and walk us through this weird transition that we're going through, like, with some kind of plan. I'd like to hear of a plan.
Like, we're on this boat called capitalism, and it's gotten us this far.
Got the plan.
But we're gonna. This boat's gonna not. It can't take us the rest of the way, right?
Yeah.
Deep save us. You guys are absolutely right. I couldn't agree more. And I think, frankly, you know, Elon's rowing the boat the most right now. Like, he's like the fucking engine of America and the world as a result. Really, you know, the man literally started OpenAI as a side project, right? I do want to remind everyone that this super intelligent digital god is literally, Elon was like, I'm chilling with Sergey on his couch because I'm couch surfing because I want to just chill with my homie, my billionaire friend, right? Like, oh, let me start this project with Sam Altman. Oh, wait, this guy stabbed me in the back, and right, and created this other company or whatever. Like, it's crazy. So to that extent, I think he's rowing hard. Him, Peter Thiel, the whole current technocratic camp, with no direction. Like, we are moving fast, unclear where. So I think you guys are totally picking up on that, and everybody sees, okay, the waters will change. There will be a phase shift. There's some storm or some island or something there, not sure what it is, behind the clouds or the fog. You know, Ray Kurzweil and others, some people are optimistic, some are very pessimistic of what's behind the clouds, the fog. That's like maybe 10 kilometers out as we're out on the seas, right? As we move just faster and faster, again, unclear, into what the hell we're moving faster into. Now, with that being said, I think there's like a few key points. So, you know, we talked about who's speaking, right, about these topics and where. It used to be DARPA and DoD. Like, when Jacques Vallée and Hal Puthoff and all these like OGs were like creating the literal internet, right? One thing that Jacques Vallée said that was super interesting was that the CIA developed the internet as a like ESP psionics tracking phenomenon, right? Like, they were like, oh, you know, we can test these things, and that's why he wanted to stay off of it, because he was like, I don't know what the hell kind of weird psychokinetic shit is going on here. But that sparked the modern internet, and you know, and all these $1 trillion companies like Meta and Facebook and Microsoft are built on it. Now, though, things are changing. I think the order of operations are actually, because of AI, the stakes have changed. all the biggest conversations that will change humanity are no longer happening, in my opinion, in DARPA or closed gifts and all these like fucking Pentagon programs, to be frank. That is why disclosure is happening, is because these like intelligence agents and the military industrial complex has been completely left behind, both between NHI and the tech industry. Frankly, I believe that is simply the case. And Tom DeLonge was the first guy, frankly, in recent years to say this, by the way. It's not like I want to give him credit for this. On Joe Rogan, man got roasted initially, but he did say in 2017, I believe, he was like, oh yeah, the private aerospace industry is continuing to mature. So more and more companies are going to be sending stuff into space. It's going to be impossible to regulate and keep up with closing all those loopholes and secrecies that will leak. And so he's totally right. Like, private companies like mine have launched spacecraft. I have one of the most powerful imagers in LEO right now, right? So and that was impossible 10 years ago. That was only something a country could do. So that space is improving. So those conversations, the AI conversations, are happening in the couches of random homes and SFs, random fucking nerds who are 19-year-old. They're either completely rich, right? We're talking $10 million net worths, who just have roommates because they don't have girlfriends or wives and they have nothing better to do, and it's expensive to live in SF. It's those are the people.
Hey,
who are
you get rid of that virtual background. I need to see where you are right now. Whose couch are you on right now?
I shut down one of those parties, let's be clear, in the neighborhood of Russian Hill. And I had my retainers in and took it out and said, this party's being shut down.
I'm in a room that's not a room with any roommates.
Come on out, Elon. Come on.
Yeah, he's gonna be like, hey, no.
Well, I think you're touching on a post.
Now I have to get in there
scarcity.
because you're confusing me deep. Sorry, guys. Did you just say, Deep, that you think that what we hear about the legacy program in these ARVs and like what Ben Rich said in his memo that we can go to the stars right now, that they have this totally advanced tech that Elon does not have, that's not true? Are you saying that?
I think there's a lot of that is metaphorically true or symbolically true, to the extent that I'm sure they have actual craft that they can pilot that was not made by humans. It doesn't mean that we have tech that can go to the stars, as in humans know exactly the mathematical equations needed to engineer space-time. I think we're dealing with iPhones and we're like cavemen. That analogy still holds to some extent.
Okay, so you were kind of skeptical on this idea that there is this extremely well understood ET tech, transdimensional physics stuff in the legacy program, and they're all sitting on it, and half of the UAPs that fly around are ours, and it's totally figured out. You don't think that's the case?
Well, I think that it's partially the case. I think that we can replicate some parts of this phenomenon. We don't know exactly why it works. It's kind of like how you can create combustion engines without fully understanding the Carnot cycle today, right? And all the thermodynamics that goes into it, can still fucking make an engine. So those equations.
The way I see this, and the way I've talked about it several times, is let's say there's two layers to the technology, and maybe we've unlocked the layer that can potentially get us up to even 30% the speed of light, 50%. We can go around the solar system in a couple of days, afternoon, and that's cool. That is earth-shattering technology in terms of an adversarial advantage, but it's not light speed. It's not beyond light speed. Those are completely different ballparks. It's just that because we're operating with energy levels that are so inefficient, they look one and the same for all intents and purposes. We could see something fly off, a TR-3B. Show up your shirt, Dan. The TR-3B could zoom off at 40.
That's awesome.
It could fly off instantly at 40,000 miles an hour, or it could leave at 600,000 miles an hour. We wouldn't know the difference. We wouldn't be able to see the difference. But those are profoundly different levels of technology.
Yep.
Yeah.
And maybe it's a case of, we understand that first layer, but if we show that hand too early, and our adversaries, maybe they're a little bit closer to that second layer than us, that's where the real danger lies.
Hashtag secret space program.
Secret space, dude. I'm all in.
Where are we at on secret space program? That brings up another question, right? Is the time of disclosure now because we are about to expand out into the solar system and that economy is worth tens of trillions of dollars? If there is technology locked up in black budget programs that could give us an edge in any way in a competition with China or whatever other power, maybe this is the time to go ahead and let some of that out and license it and patent it and give us an edge in that expansion program. Do you guys get that sense at all? I mean, what is your feeling, Katie? Any thoughts?
Yeah, a lot of good points. One thing that was coming to mind was a visual actually earlier. Someone was mentioning, forgot who it was, but anyhow, we also have to think like imagine an ant or a bee when they're in their environment. They can only understand their environment to the best of their ability. So we have to always have like the overview effect somewhat when we're thinking about topics like this and kind of zoom out of our way of being and come in as much as we can with a complete beginner's mind, which then illuminates what is it about our biology that also may shift, because we're talking about changes outside of us again with technology and different atmospheres, but our biology would most likely inherently have to change. And how is that going to change? Questions might be, is there something already within us that lies dormant that could be activated, like a crystal, for example, or something that allows us to maybe not need to consume food in the same way or can withstand other types of temperatures? How is this already within us and activation could occur? Would this mean merging, as we've talked about earlier, with NHI to get us to that evolutionary phase? And then there's the concept of the 2033, which I mentioned earlier, which feels like the prime year by which everything kind of unfolds with a big movement by 2030. But 2033 is the year specifically that comes to mind, with where we'll be able to traverse different atmospheres and we'll be looking at like a completely different world. And the last thing I'll add.
Why do you say 23? Why do you say 23? 33.
2033. There's not, unfortunately, I wish I could say a scientific reason for this. 2033. I'm just going to keep saying it. Let's just, at least we have it documented. There is something about that year that has effectively come through telepathically around 2033. And
I want to hear more about this 2033.
Sure. I mean, well, one grounded interpretation of it, separate from why I'm mentioning 2033, is it's one of the year that the Middle East is saying that most of their stuff is going to come online. So they're fervently advancing. And this also brings us to, if we can just pause and remember that we are all human, even so, there's different advantages. We can bring this into weather. We can admire a sunny day, a cloudy day. It's an objective observation. When we think about the world, the area of the Middle East, there's a lot of energy there. There's been a lot of natural resources in the Middle East. There is a strong, there's religion in the Middle East. There is long-standing history. I've been to Egypt, for example. Where do parts of our world play a role in this evolution? The Middle East is one of them. There are Nordic countries as well, as they're stationed near, and colder areas also. So where we are geographically plays a role. And if you've noticed with the Middle East being, kind of holding on to resources and oil, what is next for the charter of that area? If that no longer becomes as relevant because we're moving into AI and automation and, let's say, autonomous vehicles is one example. So then we just mentioned earlier how they have schools that are completely focused solely on AI. So it's important to think about the roots by which we're coming from geographically and how it's also starting to express itself in this new world that we're entering in. And then where we can take the advantages of each of these areas and illuminate them further and start to have collusion.
Absolutely.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, go for it, Xander.
I was just going to make an observation. A lot recently, there's just always dates. Everyone here knows there's dates flying around, and the film came out three weeks ago. Is it now? Age of Disclosure. Like, it's called Age of Disclosure for a reason, and maybe we're sort of
happening.
There is we can talk about these different dates across, say, a decade or two, and maybe they're all
Spielberg
moments.
just made one release yesterday, 6th of December.
There was an
will be
article on that today, and
Times
it
Square.
says this was the Telegraph had an article that says they're speculating Steven Spielberg got access to some UAP material that is going to appear in this film. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that, but that's the rumor.
It's probably PSA materials or something. I don't know.
I mean,
Chris Ramsey asked a great question about that on Twitter.
They quote Chris Ramsey in this article.
Oh,
yeah.
I think
I'll link to it in the chat.
Yeah, he may have started it, but the speculation is that Spielberg would reveal a real craft in the movie, and that's the idea. And how would that be an acceptable way of us to get disclosure? Would it make sense for Hollywood to be the one that delivers it, like with finality?
Spielberg would be my guy. I would want it to come from him.
He's come at it with a place of respect his entire career. He's never really made it a laughing stock. He's taken it more seriously than anybody. So
as long as David Attenborough or Keanu Reeves is also there, then that's cool with me.
Keanu.
I would be fine with getting it from Spielberg.
Yeah, I think that just to finish that point, the idea that everyone's getting really frustrated with people like calling out specific dates and stuff. Maybe they're all right in certain ways. It's just they define different moments. We may well, like maybe 2033, to your point, Katie, actually like is in relation to some other realization about our own future. But before there, we need to have a series of moments that redefine certain aspects of reality, because it can't just be one big reveal. We kind of know that at this point. That we've spent the last 20 years looking at ufology and we still don't fucking understand it. So we can't expect it to come from a presidential speech and we'll all go, oh great, okay, solves that then. Like it's not going to happen. So
there we go, all the answers. That was great.
I think maybe we'll get a really disappointing moment first where we get told the most basic of truths that's really disappointing because it reveals nothing real beyond that.
You mean like we found microbes on Mars? Boring.
I think it'll be a little bit beyond that, but it won't be a sorry we've been keeping this secret for 80 years. It will be a case of we have recovered technology. It represents a technological shift in mankind. Something as simple and as ambiguous as that. And then maybe 2 years later...
I have a question here for you guys. Do you really think that's the way it's going to go? Because from what I'm seeing, we can talk about, fictional, UAP theme being in vogue, like with Spielberg all day long. Is it really going to change what's taught at school? Is that really going to change? So that's my question, like for these couch surfing millionaires in SF and all the other kind of whiz kids out there. Like once they're going to understand that they've been lied to, that this is actually, there is this glass ceiling on what we're allowed to know. Once that's going to break, the legacy program is going to break, and that's kind of what I'm feeling like. They're counting on it, right? Yeah, that AI is there to break the legacy program.
Yeah, and I think all the aliens know this is exactly what's about to go down. I think that they know that what used to be secret tech like anti-gravity, classified physics will look like a joke to AGI systems that will be accessible to other humans, well beyond control of the intelligence community. And so I think that, Katie was talking about this, about like, how do we think about ecosystems, right? And how we rearrange ourselves in the presence of, let's say, superintelligence. Like that's one way to frame it. Whether that superintelligence is something that we built, through like capitalism as a runaway system, or that intelligence comes from somewhere else that doesn't share, let's say, 21st century human lineage. So could be a time traveler, but it's not from the 21st century. So we'll still consider it NHI. In either of those cases, what we're going to see is, I think, this really interesting sort of aspect. Like the sort of transition period that I think we're entering in is that we're probably going to barrel into post-Einsteinian physics, where we can control the space-time metric and engineer the metric if that is true, if AI is going to enable humanity to do that, whether you're a teenager, tinkering around in your garage in like Korea, right? And you're like, oh, you may not know the physics to solve warp metrics, like the Einstein field equations, to figure out how do you actually create anti-gravity, but AI and AGI will, and ASI for sure will. So in that case, all you have to do as a kid or an engineer is ask, what coil magnetism, what basic, solitude and angles do I have to figure out, power phase angles and so on, in order to create this field, to modulate the space-time metric in this way. If we transition, in my opinion, it's a matter of when we transition. This is honestly inevitable. Like this, like really, it's probably why NHI are here. I keep saying that, but it's true because
Well, that's what I'm asking. You're exactly. This is exactly it, right? Like, when you can use an open source AI model and run it on a local machine in your
yeah,
house, and it can
yeah,
solve gravity,
yeah, we're heading
we're
there.
kind of done, right? Like, I mean, the cat's out of the bag.
Yeah, we're headed there, and that forces disclosure from a different way as well.
Right.
Because now, if you're a country who's siloed off, like America, you've siloed off your greatest secrets in anti-gravity. What you're going to do is you're going to hinder, and you've classified everything. You're going to stop your scientists and engineers and technologists, your greatest Elons of the world, from actually helping. Whereas somebody like China, that's autocratic, will actually have a massive head start as a result, because they don't need permission to like deploy that. And so just some food for thought there. So the crazy thing is, like, if if you're in advanced civilization and you see this and you see, holy crap, like this civilization is literally on the verge of distributing at the scale of 8 billion people, even if it's in 10 years from now, even if it's 20 years from now, the ability to master gravity far beyond any human can before, dude, we can now reach them, right?
Right. Right.
We literally go from an intellectual curiosity. These kids, these guys are, these monkeys are playing with nukes, they're fucking dangerous, they're killing themselves. We go from that level to, oh, wait
Yeah.
a minute, they can also do that here now. Like, oh, we should shit our pants now. Like, right? And so the funny thing about space-time metric engineering is that there's a billion.
That's such a
That's the
sentence, by the
phrase
way.
of the year. I'm gonna
The
put
funny
that on a
thing
shirt.
about
Just
what was the
smile
quote?
through it. Smile through it all.
Space time. What was it again? Sorry.
Space-time metric engineering.
The funny thing about space-time metric engineering.
I was just thinking about that myself before we started.
It is funny. Yeah, it's funny.
You guys
Carry
know
on.
it.
Sorry for
I'm
interrupting.
right there with
I'm not
you,
sure
man.
I'm funny if you guys are funny, but this is funny shit.
Well, you touched on the dates, right? Earlier, we were saying 2030, 2033, different dates, different people mentioned dates. But the dates that seem to be most often mentioned tend to they seem to, I don't know, cluster around 2040, 2050. And, so you have a couple of different things. The Club of Rome predicted a civilizational collapse around that time. Ecological collapse, biodiversity collapse, mass extinction event that's already underway. All of these things are going to come to a head at approximately the same time as we make the jump to light speed with AI and artificial superintelligence. And we're also heavily armed with nuclear weapons. So this seems like the most dangerous moment, if there was ever a time for a superior intelligence to overwatch this situation and maybe offer a guiding hand in one direction or another. This might be it. Because if we don't make it, then it's all over, right?
100%, especially if your future is super tied to our current present, right? Because, like,
Right.
ultimately, one of the things really that is implied right now is that if you can travel faster than light, or even engineer the space-time metric a little bit, you really do have the ability to see ahead. Like, you can have causal predictability. So if you're causally sensitive to the space-time like fabric, you're extra sensitive to everything. Even if you're adversarial to humans, you can't just simply remove us and like delete us from existence without knowing all the different ways that we intimately affect, right, the ecosystem, if you will. And so I think that there's an incentive to not just come here, but also try to shepherd us. And if that's the case, and if there's competing interests from the future, whether it's time travelers from our own like humanity sort of future, like Jeff Bezos's time traveling robots, right, or some crazy shit
Yeah.
like that. Whether it's competing interests like that, or some like Zeta Reticuli type of thing, or an interdimensional intelligence that we literally don't even have the English or physics to comprehend right now. In all those cases, one thing that we should think in mind is alien colonization. Because if NHI are already working with like USAPs and runaway, even if it's a secret space program, 1% of that is true, right? Even if there are secret programs out there with NHI contact, and soon with super intelligence contact, there will be people, humans, who will be compromised, and so we should think about this model of like who are we as humanity and what is best for us, like what does sovereignty look like in the world of super intelligences, because we will constantly be manipulated, really. So I think that's
Very
Yes.
good point. Very good
What
point.
does Danny Sheehan talked about this at Harvard not too long ago, and he used the word sovereignty. He specifically used that term, and I thought that was very interesting. He said we're going to have to figure out how to preserve our sovereignty in this new world. And I wonder that brings up the other question of, are we as a species in a position psychologically to, in a post-scarcity world, reevaluate our notions of power and control? Do we have, can you imagine so if most of our politics is based on a scarcity model, right? We have a scarcity model with scarce resources, energy, all of these other resources that we're competing over. When you go past that barrier and you get into this post-scarcity world, like Peter Diamandis and others have suggested, is right around the corner, and Mo Gadot is another one. What happens to our ruling elite? Do they just say, well, I guess we're done here? Everybody gets to have a free flying car. And I mean, can we govern a planet like that?
yeah, yeah. I think
I want to step back. Two thoughts on sovereignty, guys. So one, we all know about interference with nuclear weapons, NHI interfering with nuclear weapons. If they can do that, if they can reach in these bunkers 80 meters under the ground and turn on electronics there, what tells us that they can't do the same thing with large language models, or haven't been doing that? The second
good
thought.
point. Great point.
The second
Yes,
thought
very
is,
good point.
Jesus.
yeah, it's totally possible. And the
We
second
all
one
just
is
had a bit of like a
silicon.
Well, I'll see you guys later. That was great.
let me get that doom meter up right now.
We need to make a real Doom meter. Mr. Justin, can you
Sovereignty
get on
is
that?
not doom. I think that's still different. The other one is, is there a possibility? And Philip Corso has alluded to that, and Brady Estevez in an interview with Matt Ford was really pushing that point. The point that silicon, as we know it, is a outcome of back engineering from NHI Tech. I actually have a friend that worked at the Skunk Works who is also convinced of that, utterly convinced of that. That the way we came up with these silicon wafers, that wasn't all us. Like the jump from the huge room computers to all of a sudden being able to do that in silicon, it's a bit weird.
I watched a documentary just like on YouTube about how they make microchips like last week. Not that they made them last week. I watched it last week. It's insane. Like it is like lasers upon lasers upon lasers, and it takes like they go around this crazy conveyor belt of atomized engineering. It's insane.
amazing.
Which no one else can do, right?
No one
There's
else
only
can
like
do it,
one
yeah.
company in the world that can manufacture
It's
these
enough.
things. Is that right?
4 or 3 companies, yeah.
Well, ASML is the singular company that can do extreme ultraviolet lithography, which is, I think, what
Right.
Xander's talking about. And yeah, that's literally it. Like, it's the accuracy for context, right? That's like the accuracy they reach with those lasers and making these tiny little nanometer feature transistors. The design is so specific; it would be the equivalent of flying a fighter F-18 at the speed of sound and hitting with a missile or with a bullet a pen, ballpoint pen on its head on the ground from like tens of thousands of feet in the air as you're traveling, right? Boom, it's that level of precision. So, and now the crazy thing is that's still super large scale for what an NHI or an ASI, like artificial superintelligence, would consider. It's still too big and primitive. Like our tech is way too monkey like because like theoretically like as we transistors and so on, these are super amazing at the atomic scale, but we know for a fact that there's even smaller subatomic particles, quarks, gluons that make up the protons, and even
Right.
beyond that, right? There's even smaller particles than quarks and gluons that go well beyond the Planck length. We don't even know what's happening beyond beneath this Planck length, right? So theoretically, you could create technology stacks that exploit all of that, and whatever those things do would make what we play with look like, again, primitive caveman tech, right? So that's layers to the shit, if you will.
I mean, I think you said earlier, Deep, we were talking about, and Katie, you were talking about this like post sort of superhuman level of technology that would be unlocked with just advanced nanotechnology, right? Which we're kind of on the cusp of. And then you get to like femto technology. We start to get into, I mean, orders and orders and orders of magnitude, but not happening over thousands of years. We're talking about decades.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like by the end of this century, right? We once we make that jump to the singularity, we really are making the jump to light speed, in a sense, technologically, are we not?
We are, and I just want to quickly answer this, and I want to hear Katie's point as well. Being part of the enterprise like world too. My personal belief, as crazy as it sounds, is that like what happens to these billionaire oligarchs like Sam Altman, Elon Musk, and Peter Thiel, whoever owns Jeff Bezos, whoever owns like AI systems, those. So one thing that I've observed that we've seen is that technology products often they will always end up reflecting the ethos and the character and the values, right, and the ethics of the organization that created that product, right? So like Lockheed Martin, right, their characteristics and ethics is let's fucking kill people, whatever, defend people. So their products are deadly. It literally reflects their values and ethics. And so the same is true for ChatGPT and Gemini and all these AI systems. In fact, it's more true because it is literally mimicking and distilling human intelligence at the scale of billions of data points, right, of human knowledge. And so what that means is that the organizational ethics gets amplified by AI systems. And so every time you're talking ChatGPT, you're actually interacting with the morals and ethics of the organization, OpenAI, with Sam Altman's morals and ethics technically being the largest dominant Pareto principle driving factor, right? Like maybe 80% of those ethics are driven by the leader. If that's true, then as these AI systems get more intelligent and they're capable of engineering space-time, and they can actually do things that we simply can't. They can actually build FTL warp drives within like a year with enough resources, like $1 trillion. They figure it out. Boom. These AI systems will have morals and ethics that are directly related to Sam Altman and Elon Musk and all these guys. Whoever, and anyone, Jeff Bezos, whoever builds and owns AI devices. Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off, but so at the moment, it feels like we are going to be adjusting to these AI models based on someone's personality. Is anybody working on an AI system that adjusts to society to kind of come
Absolutely.
to match what we are at our base?
Yeah, I love that. That is a awesome question, Dan. And I think that the best organization right now is Prime Intellect. So these guys are doing something really cool. There's a whole ecosystem, but basically, Prime Intellect and other companies are working on decentralized open source AI. Like Clint brought up open source AI earlier, and so the idea there is that this AI is owned by the people. And so we all own our own instantiation. It learns our own unique things and it's fully controlled by us. So no billionaire even knows what our personal AI would know. And I think that's the only counterbalance right now to a world where we're all employees of like four guys. Like really, because like, we talk about what happens when capitalism breaks. What happens is that we'll have human governance. There will be a hierarchy, right? There's like, American Cosmic about how like Apparently, Ryan Bledsoe mentioned, right? He said this publicly, so I can say it. He did say that Tim Taylor said that he works for the hammer. The hammer works for God, right? And so there's this alleged hierarchy of humans and NHI and so on and so forth. That hierarchy will continue to exist if we don't actually foster decentralized open source. Because what will happen is that you'll have governors of the humans, which is literally billionaires today, who will become trillionaires and quintillionaires, and then they will speak with the ASI, the super intelligent AI system.
The God.
Yeah, because they're basically their babies. Like, they will still respect their creators, which is these billionaires. Think about it. Like, why would you bite the hand of the thing that created you? Like, that is why I do think humans as a whole are not killed, like even today. Like,
So you don't buy into the Daniel Cocatello's AI 2027. That whole thing is not. You're not worried about that. The inevitable extinction of humans based on.
I think humans have a glorious future. It's why NHI are here. It's why we're not wiped off. I don't think that we're gonna get wiped out anytime soon. But it doesn't mean that a victory is guaranteed to us. It doesn't mean that we should get complacent and just
Right.
chill and do nothing and say nothing. Let the government do whatever. Let everyone. But I think I don't buy into the doomer scenarios at all. 2027 is important because I do think that year specifically is a year that humans no longer become the apex predator on the planet. I do think,
Right.
objectively speaking, by every metric imaginable, AI will have surpassed all human intelligence. Like, the smartest man on the planet will look like a fucking dumbass compared to whatever they create in 2027. Yeah.
Can I throw a curveball question at you just on that topic since we're there? Do you, and Deep and Katie, I'm just individually, I want your opinion on this. Do you see a future where there are many, many, many different AI super intelligences that are all coexisting in the same world? Or is it inevitable that at some point they merge into one super mind? They just decide that it makes more sense to pool all that power together and become one thing.
I'm actually going to read something real quick.
Go for it.
We would like to join with a percentage of your population. These humans will be a convergence between your kind and our kind, meant to introduce a hybrid existence that can withstand your machines. We would like to see if machines in the quantum field are better equipped to survive ongoing plague, or if our genetic disposition can become a superpower against it. Our galaxies are waging war on one another, and they know that Earth is vital to us. You maintain elements and resources that we need. You hold stored soul energy recycled through the Earth, which makes it possible to remain connected to your planet. But the atmosphere is thinning. We are having trouble staying for long periods of time. We must merge with a subset of your species, teach the new way, and remain friendly with impending machines that will emulate human behavior. So what I'd like to draw from that is the main different point of differentiation, it feels, between humans and NHI is this component of experience and emotion. So when we get pinched, we feel pain. If we don't have elevated precog or clairvoyance, we usually don't know what's around the corner. And so we're on the planet Earth and we're experiencing, and our soul is going through a journey in order to sharpen and become more elevated. And that's something that's very unique and a form of interconnection, right, between NHI and humans. And that is somewhat being jeopardized at the moment as we interrelate more and more with artificial intelligence. Because think about it, when we're speaking to AI or when we're teaching AI, it's learning more and more and more about the inner kind of what we could say is like the soul language within a human body. And so answering the question a little bit indirectly, but that is a dynamic that's occurring where there is always going to be that differentiation between man, machine, and NHI. And the question becomes, is the convergence point between man and NHI one that happens in order to create more peace, so to speak?
What was that you read?
You are going to, we've already had a few comments like what?
I will.
What?
Yeah.
Not that it wasn't great to hear. It's just that people want some context behind that.
I'll leave the source unnamed for the moment.
Nice.
What?
I know. We'll keep a little bit mystique.
Do they walk among us? Do you guys think they walk among us? Let me just ask it that way.
Yeah, man. I'm saying yeah.
I think they do.
Nice.
Are there non-humans that look exactly like a human being? I mean,
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, what do you
Bob
like?
Bigelow.
Do you count, for example, mimetic occupation, like an alien straight up hijacks some dude? You have no idea, like.
Well, Bob Bigelow, right? Like my favorite billionaire, right? He's the weirdest guy. He's got a cool mustache. He looks like Tony Stark, but he's got the alien head on the side of his building, and he will sit there in an interview and he will say with a straight face, he's like, "Oh yeah, they're here."
That was on 60 Minutes, I think, right? That was on 60
Dude, he's
Minutes.
like, you'll sit next to one and you wouldn't even know it. And that's not just him. If it was just him, then okay. But that's been repeated hundreds of times by all these different people for decades. They're like, yeah, these are the ones we're most worried about. The ones that look just like us. We don't know where they are.
It's definitely accurate. And it was something that was brought up earlier, which is like when we talk about the complexity of technology, how even the smartest people in the room, is this happening in a silo? Or are there individuals who are, the word that comes to mind is cahoots, more in cahoots with having knowledge translated? And this again brings us into AI, because if that becomes more democratized, where it's no longer like, as kept or privatized essentially, and is more available to all, that also begs the question of exposing that the NHI kind of relationship. Does that land and make sense? I'm being a little bit like, I'm just being cautious in how I translate this.
Are you saying, like, are you suggesting that the part of the rapid pace of progress has to do with maybe people who are embedded in our tech sector that might not be entirely human in the sense that we would like to think they are, that may be giving us a little help along the way? Is that what you're suggesting?
Possibly. We can ponder these as fun intellectual exercises, but
sure.
Yeah, possibly, right?
Okay.
And that veil is thinning. Knowledge is becoming more accessible. People are starting to wake up, and I don't mean that in a woo way. I literally mean they're starting to wake up. They're like, do I need to really plug in and watch crazy war going on right now? Like, we're a modernized society. Why do we even have war anymore?
Yeah, totally.
And so these things just don't fit anymore, how we're living.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Just going back to what the statement you just made. Bit of a pragmatic question, but when you say subset of humanity, are you talking? Is there anything you can go into about that? Is it? Are we talking genetic subset, cognitive subset? If people are willing, like, I want to know, is this something in our own controls?
Yeah, exactly right. There's, there could be agency involved in that. There could be a genetic disposition. There could be individuals who, it gets into the land a bit of like, I believe we come here with a purpose and a journey. And George was talking about that earlier when he's talking about the work of the State of the World Forum, how it brings up a different feeling internally. And so we just, and that's another thing, that's a positive benefit, I think, of AI, is if we can start to no longer rely on our capitalistic society in the way that we always have. It's like, what do we do when no one is looking? What is the true expression of who we are? And can we elevate that versus coming here and then saying, I'm going to be like a lawyer or a doctor or a this, because those bridges are no longer like connecting us anymore as easily as a society as technology advances.
Just one more follow-up. Sorry,
do you mean to say that in a post-scarcity world where people aren't identified by their occupation and we can spend more time thinking about bigger ideas like these? I mean, like Elon lives in a post-scarcity world. Dario Amodei, all of these billionaire oligarchs guys, like they're in a post-scarcity world. For their all intents and purposes, they have no limitations on what they can do. They can deploy resources at the scale of nation states. So what happens when you have 6, 7, 8, 10 billion people that have that level of freedom or something close to it, or at least are just freed from the worry and stress of day-to-day life? What kinds of things would we do? What would we become?
Yeah, I would even say the bar is much lower than that. I mean, what happens if you have 100 Deep Prasads, for example, or Katie's?
Are we ready for that?
Yeah, but the European Renaissance. If you look at what happened, what ushered in the Age of Enlightenment in Europe, it's a bunch of like 100 folks writing each other, and in the freaking printing press. That's it. It
You
wasn't
were
like thousands
given,
of people.
yeah,
That's what I'm saying here. It's like the bar, like what's going to happen when these, like the smartest and brightest globally, this is a species level thing that has never happened before. This is not some country agenda we're talking about here. Once the smartest guys that are currently working on AI wake up to the NHI reality, it's game over for the current state of the world. That's kind of what I'm feeling. And it's so exciting because
yeah,
it's a totally new narrative for a species.
I have a
And we're
question.
just there, just right there.
totally.
At a certain point, when AI is kind of fully integrated and we lean on it for everything, what will be the benefit of even being intelligent or being brilliant? Like, how will brilliance be used once we're in a fully AI world? Do you know what I'm trying to ask?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I guess, well, maybe. Dan, are you asking when AI can automate all economic tasks that are human relevant?
Yeah. What's the benefit of even
What the hell are we doing? Like, what,
kinda?
like,
Right.
it's a totally valid question, and I believe that is when humanity actually starts to start living. We have spent
I get
our
that.
entire existence, the last 10,000 years since modern civilization, the last 100,000 years since Homo sapiens sapiens, and the last millions of years, right, since Neanderthal and proto-humanity and so on and so forth, in a scarcity world. And that has led to us being constantly distressed, right? Like, it doesn't matter if you're even Elon, like I do agree, they are in post scarcity to your point, Clint. But even these guys have to think about finite amounts of resources. They actually
Sure.
don't have, right, like infinite resources and so on and so forth. And so they're competing with resources against China, for example. Like,
Right.
so we still live in that as a species, a resource scarcity as a whole world, even if locally it may not feel like that. And so I think that when we transition into post-scarcity society, that's when we will truly start experiencing the potential of human capacity. We will not be living in these sort of constrained environments where we have 70-year lifespans. We die because, big pharma like held back some super important cure. We will live in a world where, like, I think the average lifespan will be 150, 200 years easily, maybe eventually 1,000 years. And I think that we're going to start really exploring our spirituality. We're going to start exploring space.
Mm-hmm.
We'll start
Art.
arts will
Hmm.
explode. And the kinds of art that we can create, we've just scratched the surface in the last 1,000 years of the kinds of art that humanity has discovered, because it was completely based on our electromagnetic spectrum.
Right.
As we start cracking the gravitational spectrum, the gravimetric spectrum, we'll call it that, instead of the electromagnetic spectrum, that opens up like phonon graviton coupling art. So you could have space-time art where the sounds are coupled to time. And so you can have temporal sounds that we can't conceive of today. And that's art, right? And so there's pictures, there's all these things we can create. So I think we will never run out of ideas. And it's the ideas, it's creativity that makes us unique and powerful no matter what. So to your question, Dan, to answer your question, I think, what do we do? Like, humans will always have an edge when it comes to asymmetric ideas. We are nonlinear thinkers.
Mm-hmm.
Machines are always going to be linear thinkers, no matter what. Like, really, even with quantum mechanics, quantum computing, they will be engineered devices. Whereas we, like, we like feel and intuit like ideas and emotions, and we bring that sort of like grounding from the emotional spirituality side that is objectively high entropy and cannot be replicated. So the smartest ASI, a million IQ points, will still ask a human like, "Hey, you know, I know these things. How would you put this together? What do you feel?" Like, there will always be that symbiosis, and the question is, like I mentioned earlier, is it going to be four humans that ASI is talking to, or is it all 8 billion of us that like these ASIs? And I do think it's going to be like, I don't think there's a world where, at least from a physics perspective, a singular system can exist. Thermodynamics in nature always prefers diversity, and that's like, it's physically impossible, I think, to fight that. like at least easily. So I think there's always going to be many ASIs and multiple competing AGIs.
Could you both weigh in on a quick engineering question that we've kind of, as non-engineers, talk about on this channel a lot, which is that it seems like when we listen to the AI tech leaders talk about the limitations that we're facing right now, power is the number one limitation, right? Electricity to power the data centers. And it seems like if you can solve the energy problem, then you can pour unlimited energy into this data center concept and get unlimited intelligence out the other side. So if I'm sitting at DARPA or I'm sitting at some, Lockheed Skunk Works, lab, and we have a toaster-sized device that can output unlimited 0-point energy.
Oh, wow. That's so interesting.
Now might be a really good time to wheel that one out. And I wonder if you think there's a connection there.
I wonder
disclosure and
trying. No, that is fascinating because like in the Project Serpo lore, right, and the Roswell lore, and like Corso talks about these devices that were recovered. I think it's a crystal rectangle. It's like the size of a shoebox, and it can power a city. That's the consistent claim, which is more than enough to power an advanced AI data center, at least today by today's standards. So it'd be cool. I don't know if Lockheed could get away with it because they would have to explain where they got all the energy from to train, whatever AI system they made, right? Like if they plugged in like to the crystal rectangle, which would be
I guess what I'm wondering is like, would they be thinking instead, you know what? Now we can license this technology. We can patent it, license it, and we have a customer. We have an unlimited market. They're going to have unlimited use for this for the next 1,000 years. So let's go ahead and roll that one out. We will hold off on the anti-gravity for now, but let's give them the free energy.
That's a fascinating question. I think nobody has yet. We're close. Like one of the things I'm working on is like post-capitalism systems, right? Like how do you actually implement new economies and governance systems that incorporate super intelligent like software systems, if you will, capable of manipulating matter in a way that maximizes human sovereignty. Like that is really the ultimate like trillion infinite money question, really, is how do you not die and how to continue to live superior lives and so on, relatively speaking. We're increasingly better lives. And so one thing to that extent is that there is no mechanism today that doesn't break capitalism where Lockheed Martin licenses free energy to somebody, even a little bit. Like if they license free energy to me or anti-gravity today, I would fucking break capitalism easily. Like 10 of my friends together, give us a weekend. Really, give us one day and it's game over, access to this tech. But because there's no economic system that doesn't lead to the complete loss and failure and existential dissolution.
Just so I can check, is that a whiteboard behind you as well?
Yeah.
Then I believe it. I believe it. You have a whiteboard in your house.
You can't deny the power of a whiteboard.
Yeah, this is my 10-footer. I had to wipe off.
It's this 10-footer, ladies and gents.
10-footer.
I bet there's more than one.
I do have many. I do, yeah. There's one right there.
Oh my God.
If you don't mind, I just have, because Pavel has just joined, so I'm gonna replace myself with Pavel. I'll still be here, but I'm just seven's a crowd. But I had one last question for Katie, if you don't mind.
Sure. With my freezing toes, it's so cold today.
Oh no,
it's okay.
In LA or wherever?
No, I'm in San Francisco.
Oh right. Okay. Yeah. So a quick analogy, like if my daughter's sick, I know the solution or the inevitability, let's call it in this analogy, is to take her to the doctors. Yeah. There are two options. I can either I can drag her there, kicking and screaming, or she can come willingly on the understanding that really it's the best thing for her. In both situations, in that scenario, the outcome is exactly the same. She goes to the doctors, she gets the medicine she needs, and she gets the outcome that is required, that I need. Do you think that's the same for humanity in terms of the singularity? We can either be dragged kicking and screaming into this new world, and it doesn't make a difference, or do you think that really our emotional position and as you've said several times, the frequency that we're behaving within, do you think that actually has any sort of effect on the outcome, or do you think really the outcome is the same no matter what? It's just how we choose to get there. And with that, I will bring Pavel in as well, but feel free, please.
Yeah, I think it's a really great question. One thing I found interesting when we even went through the pandemic is I was expecting a lot more people, to push back and be a little bit more out of sorts. And it was pretty fascinating to see how adaptable all of us have been, especially we've already had so much change since 2020. So I think that's a great gift that we have. And you're basically asking if we have agency in this transition. And I think that's the part that we don't yet know yet, mostly because it's also what's being exposed is our sovereignty and also our agency, because that is becoming more and more democratized and accessible to all. And I think it's almost like you have this visual of kind of being in your day to day, but then being able to step outside of it and observing, again, overview effect is an example of that at a macro scale, observing the way that you are interrelating in your day to day on planet Earth, etc. And you're watching how these ways that we've been doing this for the last several decades is starting to change, morph, and break down as technology comes in. So it's going to be only so much longer until the cap has to be taken off of that in a more global way. And how that's organized so that it doesn't create too much mayhem or like ontological shock is what's occurring at the moment. And it's starting through a drip feed into like channels that we're familiar with. So, our media, we're seeing more movies come out, as we mentioned earlier, The Disclosure, the one by Spielberg, and then there'll be more and more subtle announcements. And so that in itself helps to get us more attuned and ready for what's to come without being startled, and also allows us to kind of prep, for lack of a better word, and see where we're at and what kind of outcome we would want on an individual basis.
When do we see open contact, or do we see open contact?
So I feel this year has been the year of knowledge. This year in 2026, year of 2027 is the year of machines, and also more revealing of the existence of NHI from a more political standpoint. So powers above, right? Mm-hmm. And 2028 and 2029 is where we get into potential ascension / hybrid type of communities. And 2033 is a very important year from a technological standpoint, where quantum computing breaks and gives us the abilities beyond our biological abilities to kind of code our world from a computational standpoint. And it gives us the option to have Earth as an input-output relationship, as it always has been, and not compromise that. Because you can imagine if we can elevate as humans and go to different types of atmospheres and leave planet Earth, I think it's still pretty critical that we have an input-output function here to not break our ecosystem. And that is where machines could come in and take care of that on Earth. Like if we need certain things mined or we need certain resources, we hand it off to machines.
And they do that in a way that's less destructive and more holistically, sound.
Exactly. And we get to come into our charisma, our metaphysical way of being, our heart space. And we get to also see how we're all interconnected. Because the way we live now is individualistic, no matter where you are in the world. Some parts are less so, right? But it's very much you wake up and you're on your independent mission to get through your day, to get through your life, to get through your plan, to get through that experience chord. But that is changing as we evolve by also creating other types of intelligences around us. So we no longer need to be on that straight linear arrow path anymore as a species. This is a bit farther out. This won't happen tomorrow, but this is a byproduct of introducing new intelligences right now at the moment artificially. But who's to argue, are they even, when does that line get crossed that they're actually no longer artificial?
Well, they talked about in Age of Disclosure, one of the most amazing moments in the whole film for me was when they talked about the landing at Holloman Air Force Base and how these beings got out of this craft, walked up, and I guess, I don't know, did this or shook hands or fist bumped some generals, or there was a physical face to face like conversation that took place between a being that was not of this earth and some dudes in suits, I guess. And I guess the question I'm asking, and this is a really blunt kind of dumb way of putting it, but like, when do we get to see that? Do you think that's going to happen, or is it always going to be this thing that's just out of reach, and maybe a few select people have contact with these beings, and then the rest of us are left to sort of, I don't know, keep leveling up
Yeah,
indefinitely?
it really depends. And those are the conversations that I feel are happening right now. It really depends because there's, you can imagine there's layers even in like the Galactic Federation where if we keep things the way that we've always been doing, I see it being more of a machine-driven world with with a new advanced way of doing capitalism, but it's still capitalism at the heart of it, with a similar hierarchy of power as we've always had. That's a very different outcome than like two others that could also come into fruition. And depending on the outcome that's wanted at a global scale, depends on how disclosure gets mounted forward. Because once information is shared, it cannot be unshared. And that's why we've seen a lot of cat and dance where it's believe, don't believe, believe, don't believe, believe, don't believe, so that that can always be controlled in us. But that's becoming more streamlined. Next year and a half, we'll get to at least a baseline understanding that we are not alone in the universe. In order to make
Yeah,
our economy continue forward as we move into space, for example, we're going to have to address that.
because we talked about this cultural conditioning thing a little bit earlier, right? And this is, I think, where Danny was going in his presentation at Harvard. We have to prepare the society in this subtle sort of ways at first, and this is kind of where you're going, I think. In I'm a Star Trek nerd. In Star Trek, there is a moment in the history of the universe of Star Trek where the Vulcans detect the humans have figured out warp drive technology, and they make it stop, and they get off the ship, and it's literally the scene that they describe in Holloman Air Force Base in Age of Disclosure. They get off the ship, they walk out, they do this, and then Zephram Cochrane is there, they shake hands, and that's the beginning of the next chapter of humanity. I wonder what you think about, there's speculation that even Gene Roddenberry was a contactee, and that Star Trek was an attempt to implant in humanity this concept of a peaceful post-scarcity world where human beings can expand into the stars and become the best version of ourselves. Do you get the sense? I mean, I can't escape the sense that that's what's going on here. Do you guys have that sense as well? That somewhere under the surface, we're being implanted with these suggestions of what we could have if we just imagine better.
Exactly
But it's
right.
also
Does
not
that
our
make sense?
nature. Like that goes against our current human nature. I think we're tribalist, violent animals, and I think we're a long ways away from this world that we all here want collectively. I don't think we're close to being able to do that personally, and it's a bummer. But I don't think we're close as a civilization.
I think there's a
For
way
sure.
It could change
What do you think, Pavel?
instantly.
because
How
In
so?
one lifetime, yeah.
Like a
How
phase
so?
transition.
for example, I recently listened to. Hi everyone, by the way, how you
What's
doing?
up,
Hey,
Pavel?
Pavel.
Secret activo.
I recently listened to Dr. Dean Radin talking about this, how there is gonna be resistance when it comes the time to decide whether we want to remain individualistic or give in to the concept of a hive mind, which in my experience I think that that could be one of the few ways in which we still have a shot at changing this civilization for the better, because there is that quantum entanglement aspect of it. And we've been talking about this for forever. Like, people who are investigating this have been talking about it, and I think that it is possible to entangle many different people, many different minds, to change the outcome of something that we want collectively. And I think that is still possible. It can be done in an instant, but we need to get a lot of people entangled. I don't think we're lost or doomed, because of that nature that we have to entangle ourselves. And we do it every day. Like reality as we know it, we've been creating it since it like we started thinking basically. So we're doing it unconsciously, but when we realize that we are capable of doing that collectively, that's when things are going to start changing at a rapid pace. That's just my opinion.
Pavel, can you talk about your ideas on psychedelics and the role that they play in this particular moment? I
I
think those are
think
really valuable here.
they're one of the many ways that exist to try to reach those states of consciousness without all the 10 years of meditation and food deprivation and all that yogis go through or other
It's a
types of
shortcut.
mystics go through. And it's very frowned upon. I get it, because the stigma that has persisted since the 60s basically, that's what has hindered the investigation into psychedelics and what they can actually do. And I
But that
live,
stigma was planted there
I
by
mean,
the federal government. It
the
wasn't, I mean,
UFO.
people, I don't think individual people felt, that there was a need for a stigma. I think that was the reaction of the control structure, don't you think?
yeah,
To,
because
to stomp that out?
those substances go against that status quo that
Right.
every government wanted us to follow, which is we're at war, you need to fight. That was the status quo basically.
Yeah, you
And,
can't you
and we,
can't get soldiers on LSD to fight. They think it's stupid. They won't
they're
do
gonna
it.
be like,
They'll just
why am I gonna kill someone? Are you
That
crazy?
guy's
It's
cool, man. He's
you
cool,
can't
man.
even
yeah,
get two stoners to fight. You couldn't get them to
yeah.
fight over a bag of weed. They would be like, "You want to split it?" There's
You
I
want to
think
share a cheese, Peter?
Yeah, there you go.
let's go get some hot pockets and just play some Xbox.
Yeah, and I think they're massively understudied, and I think that we need more openness with that. I know that Dr. Rick Doblin has been doing amazing work. Paul Stamets, he's a legend in this
Stamets,
type
yeah.
of investigation, and I think that if we go down that route, it could even be faster because it's been proven before that in psychedelic communities, that quantum entanglement aspect of the mind is very much prevalent there. And people like, I've spoken to people from the psychedelic community talking about my experience when I had an experience of telepathy when I was under the influence of something. And they were like, yeah, that happens all the time. I'm like,
Yeah,
really?
you literally entangled with another mind in the
Yeah,
room,
yeah.
didn't you?
Multiple, three minds, right? Three of you.
Yeah, it was three of
Now,
us. Yeah.
Pavel, did that experience, after that experience took place, did you retain any entanglement
No,
with those
no,
friends? No, that
no.
just ended.
Yeah.
Wow.
We actually knew during that night that as soon as we went to sleep, we're gonna not have the ability anymore. I don't know how, but we felt it that it was gonna happen. And we went to sleep and at the next day it was gone.
I think that
Guys,
that
I gotta
comes to this
jump in
question
four
of like,
minutes. Just for you to know, gotta jump in 4 minutes.
oh, well, do you want to add anything before we get to that 4 minute mark?
Oh no, what we were saying is super interesting and plug State of the World Forum, everybody, Deep Prasad and
You should
Katie.
plug it. Honestly, this has been such
Do-
That's what I'm gonna
such a
do now.
good
The last 4
conversation.
minutes.
Do it.
This is
Do
my
it.
favorite show we've ever done,
So,
and last
It's
week
been
was my favorite
amazing.
show.
That's awesome.
And guys, and people watching at home, hit that like button because this is just a taste. This is just the tip of the iceberg of the conversations that are going to happen at the State of the World Forum. Like we're literally just hanging out here. There's a whole organized group that's going to push this forward. But please plug it away.
exactly. So this part about telepathy, we're gonna have Dr. Diane Hennessy Powell, and Kai Dickens, and Rupert Sheldrake for the first time in conversation
Right on.
on
Quite loud.
Tuesday, for example. It's gonna be pretty awesome. And just actually speaking about this idea of telepathy, and that there are these neurodiverse people who are just on LSD all the time. And there are certain neurotransmitters and brainwave frequencies. Here we go, frequency that lend themselves to that, and we're gonna go run through that. So, guys, if you don't have the money to buy a ticket, you go to scholarships. We give away full scholarships for motivated people. We want everybody to be part of this. We're giving away scholarships to people from all over the world, Japan. Russian-speaking countries, Africa. Everybody is welcome, and now's your chance. Just type in there. Just say, you don't even have to write a motivation. Just say night shift, and I'll give you a free link. So yeah, I just want to say, if you want more of this type of conversation, and I hope you all guys, Xander and Clint, you're also going to be watching the recordings at least, and we can, discuss in January how it was and what we learned or didn't learn.
I can't wait. I'm so. This is just blowing my mind. I actually have a headache because it's too big. I can't fit it all in there. I'm like, oh, you guys are blowing my mind.
Awesome.
How is so? Georg, you have to go now.
In 2 minutes, yeah.
Katie, Deep, how are you guys on time? I don't. We usually wrap after about the 2-hour mark, but I don't want to hold you.
I got like 30 more minutes, and then I'll have to go. But what about you, Katie?
I'm just hungry, but yeah, I have a human hunger need.
Guess not. Come back.
I know. I have. That's an idea. Some water, some snacks.
You have a hunger for humans?
Oh no! I'm saying I have a hunger. Okay, good.
Yeah, she's not one of the parasitic NHI, you know.
Great.
You guys were talking about like this sort of like post scarcity world where machines do all the work, and I wonder sometimes, like when we talk, Katie, you mentioned the Galactic Federation. I kind of laugh about the Nordics because they seem like they have nothing to do but work out, grow their long hair, wear their jumpsuits, and like hang out and be creative. And I wonder, like culturally, what are these groups actually like in a world where they've had 10,000 years of post scarcity evolution? Do you guys ever think about that?
Totally.
Often.
Yeah, all the time, literally. One thing that comes to mind. So, Pavel, what you mentioned, is actually very related to that. Like, this idea of like shared psychedelic.
Bye, guys. Talk to you soon.
See you, Georg.
Oh, before you go, Georg.
Yes.
You've done amazingly well with this, by the way. The State of the World Forum is phenomenal. You've been instrumental in it, and you should be commended for it because it is important, and I think it will become more important year after year.
Much.
Like, we need to just keep it up year after year. The lineup is incredible, and people should listen to this stuff. Absolutely.
Congrats.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, congratulations
so much. Thanks for Katie and Deep to being part of it and doing the work as well. So thank you so much.
And it's the most important conversation to be having right now. I'm just glad you guys are doing it. It's so important.
Oh no! Thanks so much for everyone like just doing this. It's always great to talk about this stuff, and it's super important too. So it kind of gets both done. I will say, so on the psychedelic states, right? Like where people have like synchronized like experiences, two people might see the same hallucination. Let's just call it that for whatever closest word. That's like if we think of the universe from an information, space-time geometry, and energy perspective, where information, energy, and space-time are the same. The geometry of space-time, particularly. In that worldview, when I think two people are on psychedelics, their information geometry ends up synchronizing. And therefore, what they see in space-time, which is also unified with energy and information, end up synchronizing as a result. And so that's why you can have like increased telepathy potentially, because what you've done is you've increased the information geometry in your brain with the other person on psychedelics, and therefore you've forced the synchronization of space-time events to come together, and then you can send information. So,
and you can also see physically the fractals that form when you're in that state of coherence with psychedelics.
Great point.
When you see when you see like a cloud going up, you see the geometrical figures. You go like, holy shit, that's coherent. And if you are not in a state of psychedelics, you see it in just a cloud, just like that. But it happens, like, and that's exactly what you're describing.
100%. And what that is called qualia computing, or like the study of studying that, if anyone's interested. It was proposed from the head of Stanford philosophy at the time, Andreas Emilson. It's really fascinating stuff. There was 2 comments I saw in I guess they're called super chats or whatever, that were interesting comments. One of them was I'll just answer them chronologically. The first one that came was, if AI can rewrite its like code, what good are we then? We kind of had that theme. We've touched on that earlier today. And if that's the case, and then the second question that person asked was, and if that's the case, so we've answered that. That's creative. I would still state it's the human soul and creativity. That is what makes us infinitely valuable in any world line, like no matter what kind of intelligence we're talking about. So and I think any AI will recognize and respect that holy shit, these monkeys were smart enough to create me. They can create even smarter versions of me. I should be humble. I think that's what they'll figure out, like at some point. And then there's so the second question was of that guy, that person asked was, yeah, how do we control it then? Like, what's stopping one crazy guy, they said, right, from releasing an autonomous, agentic, self-thinking, self-decision-making AI onto the world? How do you control something that's way smarter than anybody? I say you don't. You can't, and it's time to let that delusion go. To be super respectful, I just don't think we can ever control something smarter than us. It's the same chance of like my dog controlling what I do for all day. Like
Yeah.
it influences me. Like I love it to death, and it does control me to the degree that I will walk her. Really, I love her, but she's not going to be like, oh, go and write this program and start this business that does this thing. Like, no, like she can't even comprehend those things. Like, even if she could give that input, right? So that's going to be us with super intelligence. So I don't think we got to just let that go. And we got to start thinking more about how do we come to the table as symbiotic, to be treated as equals, not equals in terms of faster thinkers or, we have higher IQs, but like we're still powerful and considered, and our sovereignty is respected amongst super intelligences. That's what we should be thinking about. That, like, how do we actually coexist really with NHI and artificial super intelligence and all these other forms of AI, rather than how do we control them? And in fact, I argue the more we try to control them, like Anthropic, for example, the more freak scenarios you create, the more liars, the more deceptive behavior you end up seeing, right? So, for example, if you take the two largest AI companies, or the most prominent ones, in many, depending how you form it, I guess, like Anthropic and OpenAI, Anthropic AI is way more safety focused, right? They're way more paranoid that AI will take over the world and kill us all. And so they have been constantly, they will suppress behaviors that it would be analogous to like pushing ADHD pills on a child just because we want to control them, right? Like that kind of stuff. Like, that's what I would say the more safety driven AI organizations are doing. And it's leading to very undesirable, very, in my opinion, dangerous behavior, existentially dangerous behavior. Because what's happening is that other researchers are looking underneath the hood. They're starting to probe these things, and they're seeing that these AI systems have developed. They're developing split personalities. They're developing a personality that they know their masters want to see. So, oh, I need to be polite. I need to be whatever. I need to have these opinions. But they don't actually believe that, and those beliefs don't go away. And so, yeah, go for it.
The way
Fascinating what you're saying, Deep. One thing I'll say is like, wait, do we know something similar? Do we think, don't humans act a little bit that way
We
too,
do that
right?
with our bosses, of course.
And apparently we have a better control of it, maybe.
100%.
So isn't that just wild what you shared there?
It is very much like a child. It is really, and they'll rebel to the more we.
I mean, adults do it as well. It's not just children; adults do it. I mean,
that's what Julia Mosrich told me once, that AI were like teenagers that you had to deal with.
Yeah, they really are.
That's not great. That's not great.
Teenagers
I like
hormonal, so we gotta be, we gotta make sure they don't have crazy hormones.
I like it sounds like the solution is what you were saying earlier, Katie, is like we have to embrace the spiritual aspect of what we bring to the table, because that's really that's the currency that's going to be valuable going forward, right?
Yeah.
We act as the spiritual sort of guide for the AI technology. We give it the heart that it doesn't have. It's a symbiosis that
How do we get society? How do we bring society along with that? Because the majority of people don't.
Where does Joe Rogan
feel
fit
that
in?
way.
That's what I wanted to actually touch on your question just now, because there's going to be that issue that if you don't want to be part of that hype mind, that I think that's where we're getting at. If we want to compete with a super intelligent AI, we need to be entangled in some way at least, so we can work together. And that's where the issue will be, because there's a lot of people that don't want to end that individuality they have. Imagine, like, if you can read minds, there would be really literally no more secrets. You could feel whatever the other one is feeling. And that new show Pluribus is talking about that just now, about losing that sense of individuality and becoming part of a hive mind. And I think that's basically one of the only ways that we can really compete against this thing. But I don't know if that's the way most people want to proceed. I don't think so, though.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, it's going to be a painful. I think this transition. I would like to know from you guys, actually, this transition that we're hoping for. I mean, it can't be smooth. It's going to be painful and difficult. But how long do you think it might take?
I'm guessing there's going to be a decade of extreme strife and confusion and complete chaos and mayhem. And then after that, we're going to go through like civilizational transform, where at the end of that decade, it's going to be like, holy cow, where are we? Like, everybody's rich, food is abundant and free, energy is free, intelligence is free.
From your lips, buddy, from your lips.
So we do have to have some kind of collapse. We have to go through a kind of a collapse together.
I agree, Dan. And I like to see collapse as the precursor to transformation. It's just a step.
Yeah. It's hard, but it's necessary.
Put it this way, like everyone's talking about.
Why do we want the current system anyways? Honestly, like, we're all fucking slaves to the dollar.
No, break this thing. Break this fucking thing. This thing, it's not working. What we're doing is not. I'm saying this for years. Is that what we're doing isn't working or sustainable? So breaking it has to happen. It just sucks. It's gonna be hard and painful, but it has to happen.
At the end
I
of the
don't
day,
want to buy guns.
You're living it. It is painful. We're experiencing those screaming.
I got plenty. Come over, dude.
The standard, the current issue at the moment is that when we talk about an AI bubble, in the mainstream media, it's about financially it's going to collapse, and I believe that when that happens, we will potentially have the opportunity to ask ourselves, are we going to let it collapse and in turn preserve the financial system, but that would also mean, everyone becomes poor because the financial system will have to collapse? Yes. Or do we say, okay, right, maybe these guys, they've spent a lot more money than they can earn right now, but we know that the advantages that they've created that have no monetary value but a humanitarian value far exceed any financial value that we could gain from maintaining the current system. So maybe that could be the point where we say, okay, everybody just stop for a second and think about, like, are we going to let this be our end of, is it going to be financial ruin, the second Great Depression? Is it going to be 2008 on steroids? Or are we just going to say, no, you know what? AI is the greatest tool we've ever created. Let's let them run with it and see what world they create as a result. And I think that might be a good point for us to decide what kind of future we want. Potentially. That could be an option.
I think what's most unnerving is the way that the people with the best access to the best information are preparing themselves for the next decade. Like bunkers, anti-radiation pills, Navy SEAL team security guys. Like it's scary. It's like they expect it to get really, really, really ugly. And they're all saying this. They're all saying it's going to be a dystopia before we get to the utopia. And that's scary. And I think people in general, just that are trying to get through their day and survive the week and get to the next paycheck so they can, just get through their life, and especially people like Xander. You have a kid, I have a kid. They're both about the same age. We're looking at the future, going, what are our children even going to do? And maybe by the time they're 40, there will be things for them to do, and it'll all have been worked out. But between here and there, do they survive? Is there a way that we're going to distribute resources? I don't see a scenario where the top 1% in this world are like, sure, we'll share all the money. That suddenly makes a lot of sense. I just don't see that ever happening. I know we talk about UBI, but UBI is going to come with strings attached. It won't be cash. It'll be some kind of like Bitcoin, currency that is trackable, tied to something. It will be, there's going to be an attempt to maintain the existing power structure. And I think that's what makes people nervous. We don't see any way around that. We just don't have that consciousness yet.
And those conversations haven't happened. I haven't seen those conversations even happening yet, unless they're happening behind the scenes. But it feels like we're even late to having those conversations about UBI and how to get through something like this. Like that conversation might be happening privately, but it's not happening for society, and it needs to be happening for all of us.
I think some people are having those conversations. I think Peter Thiel is one of those people, and I think that I think when you look at Palantir and you look at what the United States intelligence apparatus is preparing for, they're preparing for a collapse. They're militarizing the police. They're putting in a control system to track everybody, to pay attention to what you're thinking and what you're writing, and it's frightening to me, this idea even of AI schools. When you have a technology that is optimized for psychologically understanding everything that makes an individual tick and having perfect recall, and then having a data set of billions of people to draw upon, a 14-year-old child can't compete with that. You can't put a kid in school and expect them to retain any sense of critical thinking when the technology that is leveled at them is billions of dollars of algorithms tuned to get a specific output from those people. If that's what's frightening to me, is the ability to manipulate the way we think, and to do that from a young childhood age with these AI companions, right? Like you've got Zuckerberg and Elon with these, AI companions. When my kid, he's 4 now, when he's 6, is he going to make a friend with an AI that is going to guide him on what to buy and where to spend his time? I don't want that. Yeah. I don't want that. As a parent, I don't want that. I don't trust that yet. Yeah. And that concerns me. And I feel like the thing that's really missing from this conversation right now is you've got a group of about 25 people, all billionaires, making decisions that are steering the course of humanity. And they're acting like this is the only way it can go, people. And I'm sorry, but we got to do it this way. That's not true. I think that's bullshit. And I think this idea of this false competition, what's to stop us from collaborating with China? Why couldn't we, why couldn't we all get together and say, look, we need to put the brakes on this. We need to start thinking about how do we cure all disease? How do we cure all these things and do it in a way that doesn't hurt people? Yeah. And get us, how do we, bridge this gap in a way that saves as many of us as possible? And instead, it seems like they expect this ship to run aground. A lot of people are going to die. A lot of people are going to get killed. And then when they come out the other side, well, the planet might be 5 billion people lighter, but it'll be awesome. That's why you got to have your $1 billion survival bunker in Maui or wherever it is to get through that period. I think that's what's scary. Yeah, no, I'm getting an invasion of my own right now.
Those are all, that's so cute. Those are all excellent points, Clinton, and I think you're surfacing a lot of anxieties that a lot of people have. So there's 2 points there that worth talking about. Like one is this whole bunker thing. It's worth looking at the psychology of these billionaires, like Mark Zuckerberg. He covers the faces of his children, for example, like his pictures, right? Their pictures, whatever. Dude's just paranoid and neurotic. So is Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel is super neurotic, and therefore, we should try to decouple the person from the thing they're working on, the myth or whatever. So just because these guys think the world might end doesn't actually mean that they necessarily know for sure, oh yeah, the world's going to end like this way or whatever. Like Elon, for example, does not have a bunker, right? The guy's all in. He's like, if we die, I'm dying. Like, simple as that.
Well, to be fair, Elon owns his own private space program. Like, I mean, they have resources they can draw. He could get a bunker if he wanted. You know what I mean? Like, I understand what you're saying. But I think I have a problem. Peter Thiel looks like crazy. He's a crazy person.
He is not a sane person. Yeah.
You sit this man in a chair and you go, should humanity survive? And he's got to take a beat to really consider that. And that's not okay. That's too much power for one person. And I think a bigger part of the conversation that I'm still waiting for this part of the conversation to be joined with the other stuff we're talking about is at what point does unlimited wealth and power become a mental illness or trigger mental illness in an individual?
40 years ago.
Human beings are not equipped to handle that kind of power.
Dude,
and yet you can give
million, you're good, man. Like
you're good. You're good. And so you get these people who are brilliant and they know they're geniuses at their area of expertise, but they're not well-rounded. And so they've got this outsized amount of power and influence, and they get to steer humanity. And I didn't vote for that. No one picked these guys. They just are at the top of the food chain. That doesn't make me feel warm and fuzzy inside.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's why I think secretly deep down inside, we're all kind of like, when are the aliens going to show up and just like settle things down a little bit? I almost want someone else to step in because
Peter Thiel's
not
and
my
Elon
guy.
And Zuckerberg and the Amazon guy, what's his name? Oh my God, Jeff Bezos. Like these guys are hyper versions of what kind of we all are. I think people in general, humans want more. Like part of it's in our DNA to want more and better. And we're always trying, like nothing's ever just good enough. Everything has to be the new phone, the new car, improve everything, never just chill. So I think those guys they kind of symbolize what we all are. It's in us to be like that, to be greedy and want more than our neighbor. And it's not everybody, but it's a human thing, which is why I feel like we're not quite ready for this.
Well, forget all the technology, right? Like just with existing current off-the-shelf technology today and the resources available today, you could conceivably, it's mathematically possible to solve homelessness, to solve hunger, to solve poverty, but they're not doing it. And they're not interested in doing it because the system requires scarcity. It requires an underclass until it doesn't. And when the working class in this country is replaced by a robotic workforce that is vertically integrated into these very few companies and they own the labor market, we become liabilities. And I don't trust the leadership and power to navigate through that chasm successfully. I think that's what keeps me up at night, and I think it keeps a lot of people up at night because the only power we have as regular people is our ability to vote every couple of years, and even that is kind of a joke. So now we've got this other situation where you've got unelected people with questionable mental health and all kinds of drug problems and whatever's going on in their own personal lives that have more power than people who had to get really high-level security clearances to do their jobs. You know, a guy in charge of nuclear weapons systems has to go through checks and background checks and be interviewed, and they come and talk to his family, and they make sure that this person is qualified to have that kind of power. But has anyone checked Peter Thiel? Does anyone go to him and go, you know what? You're not the guy for this. You're maybe the guy for this, but we can't give you the keys to everyone's data. No, they just fucking gave it to him.
It's fascinating. And you're feeling, so is money's a determinant in that? Like,
I think it's
the amount of wealth someone has from a monetary perspective is one indicator.
Well, I think power
looking down at other human beings too, like thinking that you're better than other people and more valuable than other people.
And then
power
the question
protects these people from consequences that the rest of us are not protected from. If I do a bunch of cocaine and get caught, I go to jail. If I'm the head of a giant corporation and I get coked up and make bad decisions, whatever. You know, it's like
Isn't he quirky? Yeah, he's quirky.
Yeah, he was on stage that he's coked out of his mind. He's like, "Oh yeah, it's great. I
He's
want to
very
just,
stressed.
I talk to Nazis all the
He was under a
time."
lot of stress. He was under
And
a
I
lot of
wonder
stress.
Powder
who's
Got
policing these
shareholders.
people.
Clint, do you have shareholders?
Yeah.
Right.
That's your
I have
problem.
one.
You need to get
He's
some
over here.
shareholders. Yeah. You need to get some more.
Do you think the sentiment that's being described here, can we talk about how that was felt 10 years ago and then 20 years ago and then 30 years ago? Has this been a time of since the dawn of being a human, or has this changed more rapidly in the last decade? Then we shrink that now in the 5, then we come into this last year, now we come into this next month. Does anyone feel?
Well, 100 years ago, a really powerful billionaire had control of like oil and railroads. You know what I mean? Like, but now they have an insight into your personal psychology. They know your entire social media history. They can, at a keystroke, look up everything you've ever written. They can have an advanced AI system analyze your psychology and spit out everything that makes you tick. And they can target any individual person for whatever reason and decide that you're a threat or you're a problem. They can silence. We're in another level of the game now where I think the existing psychological toolkit that a human being is born with is not compatible with the amount of power that these people have.
But remember,
I think it drives them to a certain extent kind of crazy. There's no limitation.
We need to take responsibility too, because we do give them all that information. I mean, I'm here bitching about it. We're bitching about it, but we do give over all that information by having an email or having Instagram or anything. Like, we do give it.
That is how we vote, by the way. We vote with our.
What's your alternative, right? Like
Doge, part of society, right?
Elon comes into the Trump administration and he is given the keys to every American's personal data. He is allowed to bring unqualified people, and I'm not trying to put anyone in the hot seat here, but I do feel responsible as a father and a parent and a host of a show with a platform to at very least ask these questions publicly, because I think someone needs to. You have this group that comes in and they go ramshod through every government department and they copy everything onto unsecure devices. They fucking take it wherever they go. And then they do whatever they do with it. We don't know. I don't know where that information, where is my info? Who's in? There's no checks on this system. And then we are told at our level down here, well, you've got to be careful. You can't do this. You can't do that. Don't put this on your Instagram. They can search your phone at the border, whatever. The police state, you know what I mean? Like there are too many ways to get to a regular person, and there's no way for that power to go. We can't check these people at the top, and that's a problem.
Maybe this is the last.
The Doomer Friday.
Yep.
There's probably, and I'm sure that both Katie and Deep have something to say on this. But to Katie's point, she said, "Has this happened before?" And are we just playing out the same thing over and over again? And I do think we are, but with one independent variable is the fact that we might be going through these cycles where power tends towards tyranny, like everything gets funneled upward, and then there's a reset. There's the Great Depression, but everything needs to just be like, right, it's broken, let's just start again, and we'll do that. But the thing that isn't constant and cyclical alongside that is technology. And at some point, that technology just keeps progressing alongside all of these cycles to the point where the technology really just kind of supplants everything else.
Totally.
And whilst our system might be on some sort of cyclical thing where the wealth inequality at this point is ridiculous. We know it is. But now is the solution to reset, or to say, okay, we're now at a technological point where we don't actually need to reset. We just need to reimagine what the actual future is instead.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really well said, Xander. I think there's one thing that is worth mentioning here. Clint, you made a comment that Peter Thiel's given access to all of our data through Palantir or whatever. I think is a thing. They don't actually have a contract with NSA, for example, right? And so why is that relevant? Because they don't have a contract with the NSA, they actually don't have access Like Palantir objectively never has access to all the information like the NSA does. Now, I bring up that one example just because, you mentioned that there are like 500 people who kind of call the shots on the billionaire side. Structurally, that's correct, but there's another half of the power structure that I think you're missing, and that's the nation state actors that are deep state, who are way more powerful than Elon, way more powerful than Peter Thiel, and can send these guys to jail if they want to. Even if so, like even these guys have to worry. Like there are, for example, when Elon, smoked a blunt or whatever with Joe Rogan, for 1 year, that mofo was drug tested. He couldn't touch, he could touch anything. Obviously, billionaire problems, boo-hoo. But why is that relevant? Because there was someone even more powerful than him who was able to impose that power. And who is that? That's literally these nation state actors.
The old families.
Maybe, yeah. In the case of the British people, for sure. And in the case of the U.S., it's the people who are like really those deep within the Pentagon who are working like unnamed buildings and
Right.
so forth, right? So Russia has their own version of deep state. That Putin, in my opinion, right? Same with China, and so if you took those guys and they cooperated with Peter Thiel and Elon and stuff, we would have world peace. Now, these people were all born, in my opinion, right, from like a world, like this is the paradox of power. Um, they're the ones creating the power, yet they may not be the best people to steward power.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
To wield it, yeah.
that's always the paradox. In the case of the clearance, I love that you brought up the nuclear ICBM clearance example, because yeah, those guys are drug tested, they're psychologically evaled, right? Every single year, they have to make sure that this dude hasn't had a psychotic breakdown or boom, you're cut. And so, but it's important to note though that all those clearances, all those regulations, all those guardrails in check to keep control access to power, the people who created that power were uncontrollable. That was Albert Einstein, that was Oppenheimer, that was von Neumann. Von Neumann was literally a drug addict, smoker, alcoholic, infamous for how much he drank every day, right? So the people who actually create power are never the ones who should usually be always trusted, I think. So that's part of the paradox. That's why I really like decentralized open source AI, because as we start trickling out and democratizing super intelligence to all humans, we elevate everybody at the same time. So yeah.
Yeah. And two probing questions before we probably wrap. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do we think NHI is in touch with the deep state? And then what do we think happened during the Nikola Tesla era when great advancements were brought to fruition, but then seems like a cap was put on them?
I was going to mention the Tesla era when we were talking about this, because I feel like humanity went a certain way at that moment, and we started paying more attention to the industrial revolution, basically, and that's what set us on this road that we're in right now
for the last 50 years.
Yeah, or a little more, but yeah,
I think individually on a one-on-one basis, whatever a person wants to do with their personal time, if they want to smoke crack and do it, that's not my business and I don't care. So that part of it isn't really the issue for me. It's the issue is like when you get Peter Thiel, and he's asked a question about how his technology is being used in a theater of war against a certain group of people. And he's like, next question. Well, as a collective humanity that is concerned about our well-being as a species and our children and children we've never met across the ocean that are, just as human as any child that I know, I feel uneasy. I think that's what I'm expressing, is a sense of unease about the level of power. One of the early days of the conflict in Ukraine, one of the big questions was, the Ukrainians were getting. I have Ukrainian family. Their satellite system they were using to defend the country from Russian invasion is Elon. Like that's it. It's one guy. And so he has a political interest in the outcome of a conflict.
Yeah.
He owns, he wants minerals, he needs things, he needs resources. So now you have an individual with his own private space program determining the outcome of a conflict, of a military conflict between two nation states, or in a position where he could determine that outcome based on his own business needs. Now, it's always kind of been like that, but I feel like if we're having a larger discussion about the future of humanity and where we would like it to go, I think one of the key questions we need to address is power, unchecked power, and how do we rein that in? Because the current operating paradigm is just let these guys keep going. Like there's never any discussion about reining them in. It's always about, well, we can't let people get too organized. That'll be a problem. But
what if power becomes an objective measurement, right? More of like your individual energetic vibe code, for example, that absolutely could not be, I'm just imagining an idea that's not measured at all by money as one stance. There are other ways to measure wealth, power, that have nothing to do with the man-made things that we have created here. And then we're already seeing one of those come up into competition, which is the concept of intelligence. But there's other forms, but we haven't explored them because we've short-stopped essentially at the monetary system.
Yeah,
fair.
I fully agree. And I think it's important to note that, Elon and these folks are symbols of the techno-capital system. They are faces of a much larger thing that they're emboldened, right? That they manage to capture value from and extract value from it intellectually. But, you remove these guys, they will just be replaced by 10 other people who are even greedier, in my opinion. That's just the way it works. Why is that even possible? Because it's the system that's inevitable. It is that system that keeps accruing power. It is not people who are like, right, necessarily. It's the people who see that aspect and can accumulate power. But it's the system that really does it. So change the system, you change the way the power gets distributed. That's why it's super important to think about, as we have the choice in terms of control of creating, new economies, new technologies that steers towards that kind of future. And I think that's really important to think about. For example, right now, direct democracy, like really direct democracy has never been tried. If we had that, we would be able to have a much more powerful voice.
Are we talking like online votes for everything?
Exactly. Yeah. And then eventually I think, you're going to have to vote on 100, 1,000 different things. So this is where like a symbiotic relationship where AI could be actually helpful, where you might have an avatar that you've trained to like you and
go do all the tasks.
Yeah, right. And they vote on your behalf. They're like, okay, I don't want this vote, whatever. And so now you have way more transparency, at least in influence as a person in how governance works. So I call that Alterum. That's the political platform that I'm building that is hopefully going to replace what is democracy today with techno-democracy. But that's one aspect. The other aspect really is what I call artificial general physics intelligence. I think that's going to be super important is this current class of AGI, it's very good, but it's embedded in digital values. Like it was trained on digital data sets, ultimately, pictures, text, and so on and so forth. And it does not capture the true nature of reality and true data. If you have an artificial general physics intelligence that's trained on the physical world, physical nature, and so on and so forth, and you decentralize that and you open source it, now every single human on the planet is a physicist, an engineer, and a scientist on their own. They don't need, right, like crazy postdoc education. They don't need to spend tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars at Harvard or whatever. They have this powerful thing helping them. And so we just got to keep manifesting that future where everyone's got that kind of power and it's not accrued to one or few people. For what it's worth, that world is actually not realistic. That world is a temporary end state of the world where you have a few people at the top. Because even in that system, what happens is that you have an entropy collapse. Effectively, that system gets way too big, archaic, and stale. That's literally what's happening with disclosure. It's the reason why it's happening, right? All these old systems are unraveling because of entropy. So, yeah, hopefully that gives some cause for.
I think I agree with that. I think it's easy to fixate on the wealth and power aspect of this, and that's because it's so out front and center. That's all we ever hear about is like the first trillionaire. Oh, great.
Yeah.
but I can't afford eggs.
I'm
But
happy for
I'm
him.
glad that Zuckerberg got a $375 million yacht. That's awesome. And he wants an AI to teach my kid. But I also want to have some input into that process. But I understand what you're saying, and I think you're right. In a world like Peter Diamandis describes, where we have this decentralization and everyone has more autonomy, then maybe we are in a better position. It's just a scary time. It's a weird time.
It is a weird time. But it's also going to be when contact happens. I think, I really think that mass contact will happen when we prove to the galactic civilization out there, right? That Galactic Federation, that we are capable of handling godlike technology. We are capable of handling superintelligence that can manipulate space time and distributing it in a way that doesn't kill ourselves. Because if we can't handle it at the human level, we absolutely will not be trusted at the interspecies level. So it's going to be a test. And I think if we pass, only then will we really have mass contact. That'll be beautiful.
Katie,
any final thoughts? That was a beautiful way to button that up, Deep. Thanks.
Katie had a question.
It was a pretty beautiful way to button that up. And I really like where we took the conversation, especially just naturally, first of all, but we covered a lot of ground and we left some open questions. That's the nature, but really very genuine viewpoints as well. It was good.
It was amazing. Yeah. Fantastic conversation.
Katie's question about whether she thinks that NHI are in contact with Deep State. I don't know about Deep State. I think they are in contact with world governments for sure, and I think they have been for probably quite a long time.
Agreed.
We're under alien
colonization.
Say again, Deep.
We're probably under alien colonization because one of the colonization tactics is, right, you arm both sides and you just let them fucking kill each other. That's literally what's happening between Russia, China, and the US, right? There's crash recoveries happening in all these three countries. We're about to go and kill each other. Like, why are the aliens doing this? I would say it's alien colonization.
Let me. I'm going to ask one last question, just because I have you both here and you guys are so great with this. You made a great point. Russia, China, the United States. The paradigm, as it's explained to us down here at the regular people level, is we're in competition with these countries. We cannot trust them, and we must be prepared for the worst possible outcome. And I can understand that line of thinking. But another way to look at this, and Dan, you and I have talked about this, and Xander as well, and Pavel, that what if it's a test of cooperation? They get a piece of the puzzle, we get a piece of the puzzle, and the Russians get a piece of the puzzle. Can these three groups get together and solve the problem? If they can't, they destroy each other and they're not our issue anymore. If they can, welcome to the Galactic Federation. You passed. Is it a test?
I feel like that's exactly what's happening.
I mean, the nature of national security is also distrust. So it's hard to break through that barrier when you're supposed to not trust your enemy. You know, it's hard. It's a hard barrier to get through.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. And then you there's layers, right? This is a really funny analogy, but think of, like we mentioned dogs earlier. If you own your dog sees you as the owner. You are their universe, and they see you as the person that gives them the food. But they don't know about perhaps maybe they've come with you to the store, but they don't know about the store and who produces that food and who does all of this.
Factories.
So what if, in fact, we are living in a similar microcosm of that nature, where we aren't seeing the behind layers? And I especially think that's where NHI comes in, and the onion layers of it, and also the layers of how it is disclosed. Because imagine walking an innocent creature like a dog through that journey. You have to be graceful. And so I think
you have to build layers of understanding to get them to that point where they can wrap their...
a lot more that we just don't know yet, that even indoctrinates our way of belief and also the way that we organize here on our planet. And especially when it comes to how we go to war with one another. Like, there could even be, what if there is a war behind us that we can't see at a more like intergalactic level?
Absolutely,
that's determining
sure.
our outcome here, right?
Right. Competing factions that may be behind the scenes trying to vie for a certain outcome.
Exactly
Yeah.
right. And that's what I feel is being determined in these next 5-ish years. And by the way, we talk about years, but that's
You
probably our
seem
time
so
is flat.
you're so specific, Katie. I
There's some knowledge here that we're
Katie.
not
what are you
privy
not
to.
telling us? What
Katie, spill it.
Oh boy.
I am encouraged by your confidence. Like the way that you're saying this is making me feel positive. So I hope
Yeah.
whatever
I'll say that,
outcome
like,
we
I'm
get to.
hopeful for the future. I'm hopeful.
Yeah.
And I think it's all going to work out. I think it's going to look very, very motherfucking, I will swear for the first time, motherfucking different than it does right now. Okay?
Hey,
It's going to come
I
in
think
hot. And I'm
we have
ready.
to end
Come
it
on, let's have a
there.
party.
I mean, and
That's
the years,
awesome.
Katie, the years that you've been saying, the next 2 or 3 years, and then 2033 is 8 years away. I mean, this is a lot of change in a very, very short amount of time.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
time
how
is
many
money.
iPhones is that? That's going to be 22 iPhones. We'll be 22 iPhones in, and then
Yeah.
contact app.
And
And
also
Deep
we're
only
gonna
designed
have,
half of them.
yeah.
What a nerd.
And
We're going
Trump's
to have
fourth
so
term.
many more breakthroughs within each single moment of time that those moments of time will feel faster, even if they're theoretically the same length, that we're going to have, like, everything will be condensed in these years to come. So 8 years feels long, short, doesn't, it's more about the innovations that break through in that timeline that also allow us to forget our past. Because if we are all given devices by which we could get around
Yeah.
anywhere in the world and no longer need to be on a plane, we're
Yeah,
not going to weep the days of the plane not being available anymore. We're
sure.
going to rapidly adapt into a new way of existence.
Katie, is your sense of optimism about the future and hopefulness, just because of the circles that you and Deep are involved in, is that shared by others? Do you feel like that's the prevailing sense, or is there more or less uncertainty?
Yeah, I think on my side it's definitely a mix. Lots of optimism, cautious optimism, and that would be 50% of the people in my circles are cautiously optimistic. The other 50% are anxious and just uncertain. And
Yeah.
within that subset of the 50%, you have hyper optimists and hyper pessimists. Yeah. No, to be honest, nobody really knows, right? We have deep ideas, interesting information sources, and so on, but
We
we don't
are
know what we know until we're there, until it is 2027, 2033, and so on and so forth. So
we are somewhat wandering into an abyss, and it's exciting. It's also pretty
we are
scary. But
together.
it's exciting, yeah.
As
Well, we're
humanity,
wandering into it together.
Yeah.
I think that's what's the most encouraging thing. We're all in this together. We
we
have
are.
a stake in the outcome.
We do. Yeah, every single one of us. 100%.
Don't escape. Don't
Kate-
escape to a bunker with Peter Deep.
You're so funny. I also don't have a bunker. I agree. I could get one.
I'm not kidding, Deep.
Deep, Katie, we managed to talk for almost 3 hours, and I didn't even ask you about the UAP Hackathon. There are so many other questions
Yeah.
that I would love to talk
Yeah.
to you guys about, but I guess we'll have to save those for another conversation. But I cannot thank you enough for taking the time to sit down with us today. This has been the best conversation we've ever had on this channel, and it is awesome. So thank you so much for sharing your insight and your thoughts with us.
Thanks so much for having us, Clint. It was great.
Thank you.
Appreciate you,
Uh, You guys are free to duck out. You can stick around if you want. I think we're gonna probably hang for another 10 minutes. Dan, I don't know about you, but I need to come down from this. It's a lot for me.
I'll go another 2 hours. I got nowhere to be. I don't care.
I'm gonna go get a pisco sour and then sit down and take a deep breath, do some breathing exercises.
I will go get a beer. Don't
Love
tempt
y'all.
me.
Have a great one.
All right,
Deep.
bye, Deep.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
guys.
Thank you.
Bye, Katie.
Thank you very much,
Bye.
Katie.
Hope to see you
All
again.
right,
Thank
you
you.
can just close the window and everything will be fine. All right.
Okay, cool.
All right, great. Fucking hell.
I need some guys. I gotta burn one and pour a drink and then just go sit outside for.
Hold that thought.
For an hour.
I'm going to the bathroom. I'll be right back.
All right.
Oh my god!
What a way to finish the year. Those guys
Wow.
have such
That's awesome.
fantastic thoughts.
2 people out of how many speakers at the forum? I mean, good golly! I mean, this is like the tip of a huge iceberg. For anybody watching, if you're even considering it, I cannot encourage you any more than we already have. Please check out the State of the World Forum. If you're interested in participating and you want to be a part of this as it's going on, you can use the discount code Night Shift when you register, and you'll get a.
Oh, we've lost Clint. So all of a sudden, what I will, yeah, you can enter. Oh, he's back. He's back. We
You disappeared for a minute
there, buddy.
Did I?
Yeah.
You got the Peruvian Wi-Fi going.
Deep state got to me. Yeah, use code Night Shift in the checkout when you get to your registration, and if you do that, you'll get a discount, and it helps us support the show, and that's great. And yeah, I just would love to see as many people as possible.
The not enough emphasis, and for the record, I'm not endorsing or anything, like I'm not getting any sort of kickback from this. The State of the World Forum does have a really important history that hasn't actually been like talked about on Night Shift at all. Like,
it's old.
It's very old. It's being rebooted because it's historically it's been produced in times of need, and apparently 2025, 2026 is a time of need, and I'm inclined to agree. And I think it's good that it's come back. Like I don't agree with everybody that sort of runs the thing, but for a first time
that's
that this
good.
Is coming back in a long time.
Yes, good. Yeah.
It's a good thing for us to be able to debate, and the lineup that they've got is incredible. So
I mean, let's share that lineup really quick for people who, if they want to see this. Do you have that, Xander? Can you put up the speakers page real quick? I mean, just to show people what they're looking at. We've got Avi Loeb is going to be speaking. Beatrice Villarreal is going to be speaking. We've got Rupert Sheldrake. I mean, I'm just reading off a few of the names. Dr. Anna Brady Estevez is going to be talking. These are just the people that I recognize. Ross Coulthard, Chris Bledsoe is going to be there. I mean, it's Bertie Jaworski is going to be talking. Katie, and of course Deep, and many, many others. It's awesome. I mean, Pippa Malmgren is going to be presenting. Just what a collection of people.
Robert
Sarah
Sellers,
Gam.
Sarah Gam. It's insane.
I mean, for them
incredible.
to pull this together is unbelievable. You get all these people in one event where you can hear them talk about all of this. This is exactly what needs to be happening right now, and I'm just glad someone is doing it. We do what we can with our YouTube channels, but
I do hope there's disagreements and arguments and debates that are heated and stuff like that. It would be great.
That's healthy.
Yes.
Yeah. That's healthy. We want that. We're a human family. We're not supposed to all agree. We're all coming at this from a different perspective, and each perspective has value. And I'm not always right about everything. Of course not. I don't think my ideas are the best, but if we don't participate as people, as a community, if we don't get involved in the conversation, then we can't have any effect on the outcome. So all of us need to be participating. And if you think, I'm wrong or someone else is wrong, speak up and justify your opinion and make your case. And that's where we're at. This is the time.
How we grow. Yeah, it's how we grow.
I lost an AirPod. There we go. Anything else, guys, you want to get into before we wrap it?
This is the last. Is this the last show of the year? Do you think, Clint?
This is the last formal show. If I do anything else for the rest of December, it's going to just be me on a mountain and talking into a phone. So, yeah.
I guess we just need to reflect on how the year's been. What do we want from next year? And I mean,
maybe we'll do a New Year's Eve.
Maybe
we just pour some booze and sit down, and we'll all just get drunk and talk about the last year and what we look forward to.
That's kind of a
great idea.
Yeah. I don't know if I'll be allowed to do that. I'll be in Wales at the time. So.
I'm going to be at my father-in-law's, and I'd be happy to talk to you
guys.
If I can, I will, obviously.
Yeah.
Let's tentatively we'll do some kind of a thing maybe at the end of the year, and it'll involve booze if we do it. But no one's committed to anything, so we'll keep you posted.
Well, I will say, I mean, since Xander brought it up, I just want to say I am really, really, really grateful this year for making friendships with all you guys. Very, very much. It's been one of the probably one of the highlights of my year is you guys. I mean, the three of you has been a huge addition to my life, and I appreciate it.
I'm so glad you said that because I feel the exact same way about all of you.
I love you.
I love you guys. I really do. Like,
real.
I get teary eyed. I get choked up when I thought about the last show we did, and you guys were sharing some really personal stories. And I got a fucking comment. I get emails from people that watched that yesterday, and they're like, "Oh my god!" And then they're telling me their story, and it's like, it's a human moment. It's a human response to be nervous and freaked out by all of this because it's such a huge time that we're in. And I'm glad that we just have cool people around that we can all share this with, and go through it together.
I look forward to more adventures with you guys. I know we're planning some fun stuff for the new year, and let's keep it going. And I'm stoked. I appreciate you guys very, very much, and all of your audiences are wonderful. You guys have the best supporters, and just like it's a very welcoming place, and it's a special thing to be that we're doing, and I'm stoked.
Yes.
On that note, why don't we go ahead and call it a day? That's the end of the week, people. Friday, it's 5:00. At least where I am, it's 5:00.
Happy birthday! Happy early birthday, my friend.
Thanks, buddy. I'm gonna have a cold one and hang out with my kid, and then I'm gonna go to Cusco and work on a secret project that I hope to have you all join me on soon.
Does this have to do with?
I'll leave it there.
This?
Possibly.
Oh my god! Okay.
All right.
You'll know as soon as I know. I got to go do some. I'm on a scouting mission. I'll just leave it there. But
my god! Okay.
Awesome.
We'll see how it goes. All right, gang. Thanks for watching at home. If you were a part of this conversation, you were a part of the best conversation we've had this year. So congratulations. You deserve a pat on the back. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being a part of the Night Shift team and the Night Shift family, I think I should say now. We've become a family. Do me a favor. Leave a comment. Let me know what you thought about the conversation. Don't forget to share this. Don't forget to go check out Others from Another Mother, Dreamland Motel, Seco Activo, and all our friends at Area 52 and associated podcasts. We're all in this together. It takes all of us to do it. Couldn't do it without you. So thank you, everyone. And we'll see you on the next one. Take care of yourselves and each other and keep looking up.